Hi guys. Tonight, we embark on a journey back in time to experience a world far colder and harsher than the one we know today. Picture this. Snow blankets the land, frost clings to every surface, and the air is so cold it stings your skin. Now, imagine you're a Native American living in one of the many tribes that called the vast landscapes of North America home. The harsh winter is on its way, and survival is a daily struggle. You probably won't survive this, but let's see how they did it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And feel free to share your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. Now, dim the lights, snuggle up, and let's begin. The first chill of winter doesn't arrive suddenly. It's the kind of shift that sneaks up on you. In many Native American tribes, the arrival of winter was a process, one that began months before the first snowfall. These communities understood that the cold was coming long before it actually arrived, and they prepared for it with a quiet urgency. They were experts in reading the signs of the seasons, the changing color of the leaves, the direction of the wind, the behavior of animals, all told them that winter was on its way. But preparing for the cold wasn't just about bundling up in furs and hiding indoors. It was about food. It's difficult for us to even imagine just how dependent Native Americans were on the food they could preserve for winter months. The earth didn't yield fresh produce or hunting game once the snow came, so the survival of entire communities rested on their ability to gather, store, and preserve food long before the cold set in. For tribes living in northern regions, such as the Iroquois and the Algonquin, this period of preparation could begin as early as the late summer, when the harvest was still fresh. They worked tirelessly during the autumn months, drying and curing meats, preserving vegetables, and storing grains for the long stretch of winter. The preservation process was crucial because once the freezing temperatures set in, the ability to find fresh food became limited at best. The first food preparation was often the preservation of meat. Large game animals such as deer, elk, and buffalo were hunted throughout the autumn. These animals, so critical for survival, provided a variety of resources. Their meat would be butchered and stored either by drying, smoking, or salting. The meat would be cut into strips and hung in drying racks, often inside large shelters to protect it from pests. As the meat dried, it could be preserved for months, and once rehydrated, it was ready for stews, soups, or roasted dishes. Historians still argue whether smoking or drying was the most effective method of preservation, as some tribes swore by the rich, deep flavor that smoking gave to meat, while others preferred the simplicity and efficiency of drying. Either way, the practice became an art form, and each tribe had its own variations of seasoning and techniques that made their preserved meat unique. But meat wasn't the only thing that needed preserving. While the men were out hunting and the community was busy gathering, the women took on the critical task of gathering and storing vegetables and fruits. Squash, beans, and corn, the three sisters as they are often called, were staples of Native American diets. Corn was typically dried, as was squash, while beans could be stored for months without losing their nutritional value. Berries were another essential component of winter survival. By late autumn, many Native Americans would gather berries from bushes, blueberries, cranberries, raspberries, and dry them for winter use. These dried berries would add a sweet burst of energy to otherwise bland meals. Some even used them to make jams, or incorporated them into stews, but their preservation came down to patience. These berries had to be gathered at just the right time, before the frost hit, and then stored carefully so that their nutrients didn't spoil. In many ways, these early preparations were the bedrock of survival for Native Americans in harsh winters. They didn't have the luxury of running to a local store for a loaf of bread or a jar of peanut butter. What they had, they made last, and they did so with an incredible understanding of the natural world around them. It was a rhythm of life they had perfected over centuries, a rhythm that ensured they would make it through the toughest winters, even when survival seemed like an impossible feat. As the first snow began to fall, the temperature dropped, and the winds picked up. Native American tribes found comfort in knowing that they had laid the groundwork for the long, dark months ahead. But even the best preparations couldn't guarantee an easy winter. There were still challenges to face. So, let's move forward and explore how those who lived in the harshest climates hunted, fished, and foraged to ensure they would survive. As the first frost settled across the land, the signs of winter were impossible to ignore. The frozen soil made it more difficult to gather food from the earth, and the animals that had once roamed freely began to retreat to their winter havens. However, for Native American tribes, winter was not a time of hibernation, it was a season of challenge and resilience. It was during these months, especially in regions with brutal cold, that the art of hunting became essential to survival. You might think of hunting as something that happens all year long, but in the winter, it took on a different kind of urgency. Animals that had once been abundant in warmer months were now more difficult to track and capture. The cold made their hides thicker, their instincts sharper, and their patterns harder to predict. But the Native Americans had a deep understanding of the animals they hunted, and winter was no exception. The challenge of hunting in these conditions meant that every aspect of the hunt had to be prepared for with meticulous care. For the tribes of the northern regions, such as the Inuit, Cree, and Ojibwe, winter hunting was often the difference between survival and starvation. The animals they sought were not the same as those found during the warmer months. In winter, they targeted larger game, such as elk, deer, and moose animals that provided large quantities of meat, fat, and bone, all of which were critical to surviving the frigid conditions. The preparation for these hunts began long before the actual hunt. Tracking animals was far more difficult in snow, where the footprints of each creature were often indistinguishable from the last. This is where knowledge of the land and the animals' habits came into play. Hunters knew where the animals would be at certain times of day, where they would seek shelter, and where they would feed. They learned to read the landscape as much as they read the tracks in the snow. And with this knowledge, the hunters would form a strategy. Historians still debate the exact methods used for hunting in winter. While some argue that the use of snowshoes and sleds was vital for covering the snowy terrain, others insist that a more subtle approach was used, relying on stealth and patience. Either way, hunting in winter was a skill refined over generations, a dance of knowledge, experience, and survival instinct. One of the unique aspects of hunting during this time was how every part of the animal was used. The meat was essential, of course, but so too was the fat. Fat was a luxury in the winter months, providing not only calories but also warmth. The Native Americans knew that every scrap had value. The fat from animals like buffalo, moose, and deer was rendered down and stored in skins or clay pots, where it would be used as both a food source and a protective layer for cooking. When temperatures plummeted, this fat was vital for maintaining energy levels, and it was used in soups, stews, and even as a high-calorie snack during particularly brutal days. Then there was the bone marrow. It's a delicacy that you might not have thought about, but for Native Americans it was a critical part of their winter diet. Bone marrow, rich in fats and nutrients, was prized for its ability to provide both energy and sustenance when food was scarce. It was extracted from bones and often boiled down into a hearty broth that would nourish the body during times of need. The marrow was also used to create bone tools, which were essential for crafting weapons, tools, and even artwork. Nothing was wasted. While larger game was hunted, there were also smaller creatures to consider. In the freezing cold, it wasn't uncommon to find rabbits, squirrels, and even beavers providing their share of sustenance. These smaller animals weren't just a snack, they were often cooked in stews, their bones boiled for broths, and their skins used for warm clothing. Some tribes, like the Iroquois, even hunted smaller animals in snowshoe expeditions. The wealth of wildlife in winter wasn't as extensive as in warmer months, but it certainly held its own in providing for a community in desperate need of survival. You might wonder, what did it sound like on these hunts? Imagine the crunch of the snow beneath boots, the wind howling through the trees, and the muffled silence that comes with the stark, cold air. The only sounds that might break it are the calls of animals or the careful tread of a hunter, moving in sync with the wilderness. The air is thick with the biting chill, but there's a rhythm in it, a familiar, almost comforting rhythm, as the hunt becomes part of the landscape itself. The success of a hunt could make or break a tribe's survival. And while there were seasons of abundance, the reality was that hunting was often a delicate balance. There were lean years, where the hunt didn't yield much, and entire communities had to rely on the preserved stores of meat, corn, and berries. It's hard to imagine what it must have felt like to live in a world where every hunt was a gamble, where survival depended not just on the food you had, but on the skill, patience, and strategy you brought to the table. What's even more remarkable is that in addition to hunting for meat, Native Americans had to rely on a completely different strategy for acquiring food: fishing. Even in the dead of winter, when lakes and rivers froze over, fishing remained a critical part of their survival. In the next section, we'll take a closer look at how fishing became not only a form of food procurement, but also a necessary skill to sustain communities through the bitterest months of the year. As the frost clung to every tree and the wind whispered its icy secrets through the branches, fishing was far from the first activity you'd associate with surviving winter. Yet for many Native American tribes, it was an essential practice that continued even in the deepest months of winter. The idea of fishing when the water is frozen solid might seem impossible to us now, but for these communities, it was a well-developed skill that allowed them to tap into a resource that remained abundant despite the cold. Fishing, particularly ice fishing, required a combination of patience, ingenuity, and a deep understanding of nature. When lakes, rivers, and streams froze over, the Native Americans didn't just give up on fishing. Instead, they used the ice to their advantage. They would carefully choose spots where the ice was thinner, often over channels or near natural springs where the water stayed slightly warmer. There, they would chop holes in the ice, creating a window into the hidden world below. This practice of ice fishing wasn't just about dropping a line into the water. It required the knowledge of where fish were most likely to congregate during the cold months. Fish such as pike, trout, and walleye were common targets. These species, which thrived in cold water, were easier to catch in the winter, as their movements slowed, making them more susceptible to baited hooks or nets. The tribes often used a spear to catch fish through the ice, or, in some cases, large nets would be lowered into the holes to capture the fish as they passed through. Historians still argue about the exact techniques used by different tribes in ice fishing. Some suggest that Native Americans in the Great Lakes region perfected the art of ice fishing with the use of spears, while others argue that the use of fishing hooks, which were often made from bone, wood, or stone, played a larger role. Regardless of the method, the idea of fishing in such frigid conditions shows just how resourceful and adaptable these people were. Ice fishing required not just physical endurance, but also a steady, calm mindset. After all, you weren't just sitting by the water, you were sitting on frozen ground for hours, in bitter cold. The sound of the wind could be deafening, the crackle of the ice beneath your feet the only indication that you were not alone in this frozen wilderness. And when the fish did bite, there was a rush of excitement. This was not just food. It was a gift from the earth, a small victory in a world where survival was never guaranteed. In addition to the physical and practical elements, fishing also held a spiritual significance for many Native American tribes. The water was sacred to them, a life-giving force that connected them to the natural world. Fishing, particularly during winter, was often seen as a way to honor the spirit of the fish and the water. Some tribes believed that fish were gifts from the spirit world, and as such, they treated their catch with the utmost respect. For example, in the winter months, the Ojibwe people would offer a prayer before casting their lines, asking for the fish to provide them with sustenance and thanking the spirits for the food they were about to receive. The ability to fish during the winter also demonstrated an important aspect of Native American survival, the relationship they had with the land. It wasn't just about taking from nature, it was about understanding it, respecting it, and knowing when and where to take from it. The land provided, but it also required careful stewardship. Through techniques like ice fishing, Native Americans demonstrated their deep, symbiotic connection with nature, a connection that helped them survive even the harshest of winters. But fishing wasn't just a matter of catching fish and eating them fresh. The fish were often dried or smoked, just like meat, to be preserved for the long winter ahead. The fish would be gutted and filleted, the flesh carefully cut into strips, and then hung on drying racks or placed in smokehouses. This preservation method ensured that fish would remain a vital part of the winter diet, providing much-needed protein and fats. The smoked fish could be stored for months, providing sustenance during the darkest and coldest months when fresh food was scarce. For some tribes, fishing also extended beyond fresh water. Saltwater tribes, such as those living along the Pacific coast, relied on fishing for sustenance in the winter as well. Coastal fishing tribes, like the Chinook and the Marca, would continue their fishing practices even as winter winds battered the shore. They had the tools, the techniques, and the knowledge to continue to catch fish, even in the harshest conditions. Fishing, then, wasn't just about finding food, it was about adapting to the environment and thriving despite the elements. It required skill, patience, and an intimate understanding of the water, the ice, and the rhythms of the natural world. For the Native Americans who relied on it, ice fishing was an essential part of winter survival, ensuring that the food stores remained full, that nourishment was always within reach, and that the community could thrive in even the most challenging of conditions. In the next section, we'll explore the ways in which these communities also used the food they harvested and hunted, transforming it into something more than just sustenance. Let's dive into the world of fats, meats, and marrow, where survival wasn't just about calories, but about the kind of energy that could fuel a person through the harshest winters. The winter winds are fierce, the nights long and cold, and the ground beneath your feet is solid with frost. But even in these harshest conditions, survival isn't just about enduring the cold, it's about fueling the body with the right food to keep going. And when it comes to surviving freezing winters, the foods that provided the most energy and warmth weren't always the ones you might expect. Meat, fat, and bone. These were the true cornerstones of Native American winter diets. The importance of fat cannot be overstated. During the winter, calories weren't just a luxury, they were a necessity. Cold temperatures meant that the body burned energy much faster in an effort to stay warm, so the need for high-calorie foods was crucial. Fatty meats like bison, moose, and deer provided that energy in a way that was more effective than lean cuts of meat. These animals had thick layers of fat that insulated their bodies from the cold, and this fat became a vital source of sustenance for Native Americans. When an animal like a bison or moose was hunted, the meat was only part of the picture. The fat, rich and dense with calories, would be rendered down into a thick, nourishing substance that could be stored and used throughout the winter months. This fat was incredibly versatile. It could be used in cooking, for making stews, or simply eaten on its own as a high-energy snack. Some tribes even used animal fat as a kind of spread, smearing it onto dried meats or root vegetables. Fat from animals was also used for preserving food, especially meat, which could be sealed in fat to prevent spoilage during the long, cold months. Historians still debate how much of the winter diet depended on animal fat. Some believe that fat was more central to survival in certain regions, where the cold was especially brutal, while others argue that tribes further south might have relied more on plant-based sources of calories. Still, the consensus remains that without this fat, winter survival would have been far more difficult. Bone marrow was another vital food source, one that often gets overlooked when we think of a winter diet. The bones of large game animals such as bison, elk, and moose held an incredible amount of nutrition. The marrow, a soft, fatty substance inside the bones, was rich in fats and essential nutrients that helped sustain the body. Native Americans knew the value of bone marrow, and it was often extracted by cracking open large bones, like the femur, and scooping out the marrow. This could then be consumed directly, or it could be boiled down into a thick, nutritious broth. In fact, the practice of making bone broth became a critical part of winter cooking. Bone marrow not only provided much-needed calories, but also helped to keep the joints lubricated and the body functioning in harsh conditions. It was the kind of food that made a real difference when there was little else to eat. And yet, even with the incredible value of meat, fat, and bone, there were still other elements to consider. For the Native Americans who lived in regions with harsher winters, such as the northern tribes, every piece of an animal was used. Nothing was wasted. The hide of the animal could be used for clothing and shelter. The bones were made into tools and weapons. The sinew could be turned into cords or used for sewing. Even the hooves, when boiled, would produce a gelatinous substance that was consumed for its nutritional benefits. Every part of the animal was repurposed, creating a holistic system of survival where nothing went unused. For many tribes, such as the Plains Indians, the buffalo was the most valuable resource. The buffalo provided not only meat, but also fat, bones, hides, and other materials essential for life. These animals were so central to their way of life that entire ceremonies and rituals were dedicated to honoring the buffalo and thanking it for its sacrifice. The buffalo hunt wasn't just a physical act, it was a spiritual practice, one that tied the hunters to the land and the animals they relied upon for survival. But this connection to the land wasn't just about using animals for food, it was also about using the land's other resources. While animal fats and meat were crucial, the tribes also used the seasonal produce of the land, like roots, tubers, and berries, to round out their diet. These foods, though not as calorie-dense as meat, were essential for providing vitamins and minerals that were harder to obtain in the winter months. Root vegetables like potatoes and yams, which could be dug up before the frost, were incredibly valuable in winter months. They were easy to store and could be cooked in stews or roasted over an open fire. Often, they were used to balance out the rich, fatty foods that formed the bulk of the diet. The starchy vegetables would provide the energy needed to support the heavier, fattier meals. Similarly, dried berries and fruits helped to provide the vitamins and minerals that kept scurvy at bay. These were not foods that could be eaten in abundance, but they were a vital supplement to the diet, ensuring that the body didn't miss out on the nutrients it needed. The way these foods were prepared was also key. Stews, soups, and broths were staples of the Native American winter diet. The fat from the meat and the marrow from the bones would be combined with vegetables, dried berries, and even corn to create hearty, nutrient-dense meals. These dishes were slow-cooked over the fire, letting the flavors meld together and creating a rich, savory broth that was perfect for warming up after a long day in the cold. The smell of these stews, rich with the aroma of meat, fat, and herbs, must have been a comforting balm to those enduring the harsh winter. The warmth of the fire, the gentle bubbling of the pot, and the knowledge that a meal could sustain you through the long, dark months of winter were all part of the experience. It wasn't just about the food itself, it was about the sense of community, the bond that was formed around the fire as families shared the fruits of their labor. As we continue to explore the food traditions of Native Americans, we'll shift our focus to the central role of corn in their diet. While meat and fat were essential, corn became the foundation for much of their winter sustenance. Let's see how this simple yet powerful grain became the lifeblood of winter survival. Corn was more than just a crop for Native Americans, it was the very foundation of their diet, particularly in the winter months. This humble grain, often overlooked in today's fast-paced world, was an absolute lifeline for many Native American tribes. It wasn't just the primary carbohydrate, it was the versatile food source that formed the heart of countless dishes, from thick soups to flatbreads and everything in between. In many ways, corn symbolized both the bounty and the resilience of the land, providing sustenance during the coldest, most barren times of the year. As we've seen, hunting for meat and gathering root vegetables was an essential part of surviving the winter, But corn played an equally crucial role. What made corn so vital was its ability to store well. Unlike many other crops that withered in the frost, corn could be harvested and kept throughout the harshest winter months, providing a steady supply of energy when fresh food was scarce. Dried corn kernels were a stable, reliable source of nutrition, and they could be ground into meal or flour for a wide range of dishes. A significant part of the reason corn was so important is its storability. Most people today are familiar with the idea of canning or freezing food for later, but for Native Americans, this was done through drying. After harvest, corn would be left to dry in the sun or over the smoke of a fire. Once fully dried, it could be stored in cool, dry conditions and would last through the winter. This preserved corn was turned into cornmeal, flour, or hominy, depending on the method of processing. Cornmeal could be used in soups and stews, while corn flour could be made into dough for bread or other baked goods. Historians still debate the exact origins of corn as a staple food, with some suggesting it was domesticated in southern Mexico thousands of years ago, while others argue that its widespread cultivation spread northward over time. What we know for sure is that corn was crucial for survival in winter, especially among tribes that relied on agriculture. It wasn't just the caloric value of the grain, it was the variety of ways in which it could be prepared, offering endless possibilities to create hearty meals. The flexibility of corn was another reason it was so essential. It wasn't just a one-size-fits-all food. Depending on the tribe, corn could be cooked in different ways, lending itself to both savory and sweet dishes. One of the most common ways to prepare corn was to grind it into meal or flour. This cornmeal would then be used to thicken soups and stews, creating a rich, filling base for the meats and vegetables that were added. The cooking of corn was an art in itself. Each tribe had its own methods for making the most of this simple grain, from boiling it to roasting it, to making a simple porridge known as mush. Another preparation method was turning corn into hominy, a process where the corn kernels were treated with an alkali solution, usually lye or lime, to remove the tough outer hull. This method not only made the corn easier to digest, but also increased its nutritional value by freeing up more of its proteins and nutrients. Once treated, hominy could be eaten as a side dish or used in stews. It was the kind of meal that could fill you up and keep you warm, especially when added to the high-fat meat broths that were also a staple during the winter months. For some tribes, like the Pueblo and the Hopi, corn was not just a food source, it was sacred. Corn had spiritual significance in many native cultures, especially those in the southwestern United States. The people of these regions believed that corn was a gift from the gods and that the crop carried with it the spirit of life itself. Corn was used in many religious ceremonies, including dances, prayers, and rituals, as a way of showing gratitude for the harvest. In some cultures, there were even myths surrounding the origin of corn, stories that explained how this precious grain came to be. The spiritual connection to corn was so strong that it became a central part of their cultural identity, woven into every aspect of life, including food, ceremony, and community. Yet, even in the harshest winters, corn wasn't a guaranteed crop. There were lean seasons when the weather didn't cooperate, and the harvest failed. It was during these difficult years that the importance of food preservation became all the more apparent. While corn could last, it wasn't indestructible, and the threat of famine loomed large, in particularly hard winters. It was the skill of storing and preparing corn that often made the difference between abundance and scarcity. If one could prepare well, using the right methods to store and preserve corn, it could feed a community through the darkest months of the year. While corn, meat, and fat were staples for many tribes, some of the northern communities relied heavily on the use of roots, berries, and tubers to diversify their diets. These hardy plants, often harvested before the first frost, were packed with nutrients that helped to balance out the energy-heavy meat and fat. The ability to gather and store such plants ensured that the winter diet wasn't solely focused on animal products. which could sometimes be scarce depending on the success of the hunt. This blend of meats, vegetables, and grains became a finely tuned system for survival. The combination of high-calorie foods, like meat and fat, with the nutritional benefits of roots, corn, and dried berries, created a balanced, sustainable diet that kept Native American communities healthy through the long winter months. As we delve deeper into the foods that sustained these communities, let's now look at the role of roots, tubers, and other plant-based foods in the winter diet. These foods, while less talked about, played a crucial part in providing the vitamins and minerals necessary to withstand the freezing conditions. In the midst of harsh winters, when the snow seemed endless and the cold was unrelenting, it wasn't just meat and fat that kept Native American communities alive. Roots, tubers, and other plant-based foods were just as vital to surviving the long months of freezing temperatures. These foods, often harvested before the first frost, were rich in essential nutrients that complemented the calorie-heavy meats, providing a necessary balance to their diet. While hunting provided the energy needed for warmth, it was these humble plants that helped maintain the body's health through the coldest times of year. Roots and tubers were some of the most resilient foods that could be harvested before the frost settled in. Potatoes, yams, and other underground crops were often dug up and stored before the temperatures dropped too much. These foods could withstand the cold, making them an excellent choice for winter storage. When prepared properly, they could last through the entire season. The hardy nature of tubers made them perfect for the cold climates where fresh food wasn't always available. These foods were not only durable, but also calorie-dense, providing much-needed energy during lean months. Roots, in particular, were often dug up in late autumn, right before the first frost made the ground too hard to dig. The Iroquois, for example, relied heavily on wild roots like wild onions, garlic, and leeks. These wild plants provided a burst of flavor and essential nutrients, breaking up the monotony of a diet that otherwise relied heavily on dried meats and preserved corn. For the tribes living in the Great Plains, roots like camas and other wild potatoes were essential. These tubers were boiled or roasted and often mixed with other ingredients to make thick, hearty stews, or used to make a kind of porridge that was perfect for warming up on a bitterly cold day. Historians still discuss whether the use of wild roots and tubers in these diets was universally common among all tribes, or if some communities leaned more heavily on cultivated crops like beans and corn. The variations in diet likely had a lot to do with the geography of each tribe. For instance, while the southwestern tribes like the Hopi and Zuni might have relied more on cultivated crops such as beans and corn, tribes in the northern areas or Great Plains regions depended more on the wild bounty that the earth provided, including roots and tubers. The adaptation to their environment meant that Native Americans knew which plants to look for, when to harvest them, and how to use them to ensure that no part of the harvest was wasted. In addition to roots and tubers, berries also played an essential role in the winter diet. These small but powerful fruits were gathered in late summer or early autumn, when they were at their peak ripeness. Once gathered, berries like cranberries, blueberries, and raspberries were carefully dried or preserved for later use. These dried berries became a crucial part of the winter diet, as they provided a natural source of vitamins and antioxidants that were otherwise hard to come by in the cold months. The dried berries could be eaten as snacks, mixed into stews, or used to add a touch of sweetness to otherwise savory dishes. While these berries were packed with nutrients, they were also an important part of Native American culture. Many tribes held berries in high regard, often associating them with healing properties or using them in rituals and ceremonies. Some believed that the spirits of the berries could protect their health during the winter months. The practice of drying and preserving berries wasn't just about food, it was about maintaining a spiritual connection with the land, acknowledging the gifts it provided, and showing respect for the natural world. As we explore the role of these plant-based foods in the diet, it's important to note the variety of ways in which these foods were incorporated into meals. Just like corn, roots and tubers were often used in stews or soups, which were the staple winter meals for many native communities. The rich broths made from meat, fat, and marrow were thickened with roots, cornmeal, and sometimes beans. This combination of plant-based foods and preserved meats resulted in dishes that were nourishing, hearty, and rich in both calories and nutrients. The warmth of a thick stew, simmering on a fire, must have been a welcome comfort against the biting cold. Yet it wasn't just about the food. The preparation of these dishes, often done together by family members, was an important social activity. Food was a unifying force in Native American communities, and the act of gathering, preparing, and sharing meals became a way to bond and reinforce ties with one another. Around the fire, stories were told, songs sung, and life shared as families and communities gathered around their meals, finding warmth in more ways than one. For many tribes, the act of preparing food was deeply ritualistic. Meals weren't just about sustenance, they were about honoring the spirits of the animals, plants, and the earth that provided. In a sense, every meal was an offering, a recognition of the interdependence between people and the natural world around them. The sacredness of the food was reflected in the care with which it was prepared and shared, and it was this bond with the land that kept these communities alive through the coldest of winters. Now that we've explored the role of roots, tubers, and berries in the Native American winter diet, let's turn our attention to another important facet of winter survival: the importance of communal feasts. Despite the scarcity, winter was also a time for celebration, where food became a symbol of resilience, unity, and gratitude. Let's delve into how these feasts played a central role in winter survival. In the darkest days of winter, when the cold was at its harshest and the land lay dormant beneath a blanket of snow, the act of coming together for a communal feast became more than just a way to survive. It was a means of celebrating life, resilience, and the bonds that held the community together. Winter feasts, despite the scarcity of resources, were a vital part of Native American culture, providing not only nourishment but also emotional and social sustenance. While food preservation was paramount during the winter, the communal feast was a rare and special event. These feasts didn't happen every day, but they marked important moments, such as the end of a successful hunt, a harvest festival, or the celebration of a major event in the tribe's life. Even in times of scarcity, these feasts were central to the social fabric of the community. They were opportunities to share what little food there was, celebrate survival, and reinforce the bonds of kinship and unity. The importance of these feasts wasn't just about the food, it was about the sense of community they fostered. When the weather outside was unforgiving, when the nights stretched endlessly and the days were cold and short, coming together around a fire to share a meal was an act of defiance against the isolation and hardship of winter. It was a reminder that survival wasn't just about individual effort, it was about the collective strength of the tribe. Feasts during the winter months were typically rich affairs, though not as abundant as those held in warmer times. The meat from large game animals like buffalo, moose, and deer was often the centerpiece of these gatherings, especially if the hunt had been particularly successful. Dried meats and fish, which had been preserved over the months, would also be included, providing a hearty base for stews and soups. These dishes, often simmered over a slow fire, became thicker and more flavorful as the meats, bones, and vegetables combined into a rich, savory broth. In addition to the meats, root vegetables, beans, and cornmeal were key ingredients in these feasts. They were often used to thicken the soups or added as side dishes, creating a well-rounded and filling meal. Tubers like potatoes and yams, as well as beans that had been stored since the harvest, added both nutrition and substance to the feast. Dried berries, carefully preserved during the warmer months, were often mixed into dishes for a burst of sweetness, or eaten as a side snack to complement the savory elements of the meal. The feasts were more than just a time to eat, they were a social occasion. People gathered around the fire, sharing stories, singing songs, and offering prayers of thanks to the spirits for the food they had. These feasts allowed the community to reconnect, to celebrate the successes of the season, and to bolster each other's spirits. The ritual of sharing food helped reinforce the bonds that held the tribe together, making it clear that survival wasn't just an individual effort, but a collective one. Scholars still debate the role of ritual in these communal meals, questioning whether the feasts were purely practical or had a deeper spiritual meaning. Some believe that the feasts were simply a way to celebrate a successful hunt or the fruits of the harvest, while others suggest that they were much more than that, rituals designed to honor the earth and the animals that had given their lives. Regardless of the interpretation, it is clear that these gatherings were essential for maintaining social cohesion during the tough winter months. For many tribes, the communal feast also served a spiritual function. Food was viewed not just as sustenance, but as a gift from the earth. The act of eating together was a way to honor the spirits of the animals and plants that provided the food. Tribes would often perform rituals, say prayers, or give thanks to the earth before a meal, recognizing that the food they ate was a sacred gift. These ceremonies helped to maintain a spiritual connection with the natural world, reinforcing the idea that humans were not separate from nature but a part of it. Beyond the practical and spiritual reasons for these feasts, there was also an element of psychological relief. In the midst of a harsh winter, when the cold made every day feel like a struggle, the communal feast provided a rare moment of joy and warmth. For families and communities who lived in small, isolated groups, coming together for a shared meal was a reminder that they were not alone in their fight against the winter. The presence of others, the shared stories, and the laughter around the fire brought comfort and reassurance. These gatherings were essential for mental and emotional well-being, offering hope and connection during the coldest, darkest months of the year. Feasts also helped foster a sense of unity within the tribe. By sharing the harvest or the spoils of a successful hunt, the community strengthened its bonds and reinforced the idea that survival was a communal effort. The food that was shared wasn't just sustenance, it was a symbol of interdependence. The tribe relied on each member to contribute, whether through hunting, gathering, or preserving food. This collective responsibility was what allowed the community to thrive even in the face of adversity. And while winter feasts were special occasions, they weren't the only form of communal eating. Daily meals were often shared as well, especially in large family groups or extended communities. Cooking together, eating together, and sharing food helped to solidify relationships and maintain social structures within the tribe. The sharing of food, whether in a grand feast or a simple daily meal, was a vital part of the social fabric, ensuring that everyone had what they needed to survive and that no one was left behind. As we continue our exploration of Native American winter diets, it's time to turn our attention to the tools and techniques used in food preparation. The ways in which food was prepared and preserved were just as important as the food itself. In the next section, we'll dive into the art of cooking and food storage, where limited resources and the demands of the cold led to the development of ingenious methods that kept the community fed throughout the long winter months. As winter's grip tightened and the cold winds howled across the landscape, the need for inventive food preparation methods became even more apparent. The techniques Native Americans developed to cook and preserve food during these harsh months were nothing short of ingenious. With limited resources and no modern appliances to help, they relied on their deep knowledge of the land, the animals, and the seasons to ensure they had enough to eat to survive the coldest months. One of the most important tools in their food preparation was fire. While we might take the modern conveniences of stoves and refrigerators for granted, the Native Americans depended on fire for both warmth and cooking. The hearth was the center of family life. It was where food was prepared, stories were shared, and community bonds were strengthened. But beyond its social and cultural importance, fire was a crucial tool for preserving food in a time before refrigeration. Smoking and drying were the two primary methods for preserving meat, fish, and even some vegetables. Smoking was a time-consuming process, but it was essential for ensuring that meat didn't spoil during the cold months. Large game like buffalo, deer, and elk were often butchered, and the meat was hung over the fire to dry. Smoking the meat not only preserved it but also enhanced its flavor, giving it a distinctive taste that became synonymous with Native American cuisine. The smoke helped to cure the meat, creating a durable, shelf-stable food source that could be stored for months, even during the most brutal winters. The drying process, too, was vital for survival. Once meat or fish was smoked or salted, it was left out to dry, either hung in the sun or placed in drying racks. This method of preserving food meant that it could be rehydrated later by boiling or stewing, making it available when fresh food was no longer an option. Fish, which was abundant in the summer and fall months, was often dried and smoked for winter consumption, ensuring that this important protein source was available even in the deepest cold. In addition to meats and fish, many tribes also dried fruits and vegetables, such as berries, beans, squash, and corn. The practice of drying and preserving corn in particular was essential for the long winter months. Corn could be dried on the cob or husked and stored in large baskets or ceramic containers. Once dried, corn could be ground into meal or flour, making it a versatile ingredient in a wide range of dishes. Hominy, a popular dish made from dried corn treated with an alkali solution, was also a staple during the winter months, providing a rich and hearty meal. Preserving food wasn't just about keeping it edible, it was about creating a store of nutrition that would keep the body strong throughout the cold months. The fats in preserved meats, the calories in corn, and the vitamins in dried berries all contributed to a balanced winter diet. The process of preserving these foods wasn't rushed or careless. It required attention to detail and patience, ensuring that nothing went to waste, and that every meal provided the nourishment needed to face the long winter. In addition to the practical side of food preparation, the Native Americans also had a profound understanding of how to cook with limited ingredients. Cooking wasn't just about feeding the body, it was about creating a connection with the food, the earth, and the community. The preparation of meals, whether a simple stew or a complex dish, was an art. The pot, often made of clay, would be filled with meat, vegetables, and grains, and then placed over the fire to cook slowly. This method allowed the flavors to meld together, creating a rich, savory broth that was comforting and nourishing. The smell of simmering stews must have been one of the most comforting scents in the cold winter months, as families huddled around the fire, waiting for the meal to be ready. The food that was prepared wasn't just filling, it was also a source of warmth and energy that helped sustain the body through the cold nights. The ritual of cooking over the fire brought a sense of comfort and routine to the long, isolated winters. For those living in colder climates, the art of cooking and food preservation was even more critical. Tribes in the far north, like the Inuit, relied heavily on stored food to survive the extreme cold. They used similar methods of drying and smoking, but also turned to more unconventional resources. The Inuit, for example, would store seal blubber and whale fat, which were high in calories and essential for surviving in the frigid Arctic environment. The blubber would be rendered down into a thick, rich fat that could be used for cooking or as an energy-dense snack. This fat was vital for providing the necessary calories to withstand the freezing temperatures. For these northern tribes, cooking techniques were adapted to the environment. They cooked food in large, heavy pots which could hold a significant amount of stew or broth. These pots were placed over open fires or heated stones, a method that allowed the food to cook slowly, preserving its nutrients and flavors. In some cases, food would be placed in underground pits to cook, a technique that helped to retain heat and moisture, making it easier to cook large amounts of food at once. But it wasn't just about cooking food, it was about understanding the food itself. Native Americans knew how to use every part of the animal and plant for maximum benefit. Animal bones were used to make tools and weapons, while hides were turned into clothing, shelters, and blankets. Even the smallest scraps of meat or vegetables were used in soups, stews, or to flavor other dishes. Every part of the food was utilized, ensuring that nothing went to waste. In the next section, we'll take a look at the central role women played in food preparation. While men hunted and gathered, It was the women who were responsible for much of the cooking, preserving, and preparing of food. Their role in ensuring the community's survival through the winter months was invaluable, and their contributions deserve a closer look. In the cold, dark winter months, when the snow lay thick and the wind howled through the trees, the role of women in Native American communities was more important than ever. While the men braved the cold on hunting expeditions, it was the women who held the responsibility of preparing the food that would sustain the tribe through the harsh season. Their work was not just about cooking, it was about ensuring survival. In many ways, their role in food preparation was the backbone of the community's ability to endure. Women were the ones who knew how to take the resources gathered by the men and turn them into nourishing meals. They were responsible for drying and smoking meat, grinding corn, and preparing vegetables and fruits for storage. The task of ensuring that food was preserved properly, whether by drying, smoking, or fermenting, was a time-consuming and demanding job that required great skill and patience. The women's ability to store and prepare food wasn't just practical, it was a matter of life and death. While men were out hunting, the women would gather the remaining food from the forest, harvest root vegetables, and collect berries or nuts to add to the winter stores. In addition to preparing food, they would also gather materials for tools, clothing, and shelter. The women's labor extended far beyond the kitchen, and their contributions were essential in every aspect of daily life. What makes their role even more impressive is that it wasn't just about preparing food for themselves or their families. The women were often responsible for preparing food for the entire tribe. A single meal could involve cooking enough to feed dozens or even hundreds of people, depending on the size of the tribe. For example, a successful hunt might mean that a feast was prepared to celebrate and share the bounty, and it was the women who would cook and distribute the food. The communal nature of food preparation helped to bind the tribe together, ensuring that everyone had enough to eat and that no one went hungry during the hardest months of the year. In addition to their culinary skills, women also played a key role in making sure the food was well balanced. They knew how to combine various ingredients to create meals that would sustain the body, provide energy, and offer warmth. The balance of meats, fats, vegetables, and grains was crucial for surviving the winter months, and women had an intimate understanding of how to make the most of the food they had. This knowledge wasn't just learned in the kitchen, it was passed down through generations, a skill set that was essential for the survival of the tribe. Interestingly, in many Native American cultures, women were also the primary keepers of recipes, techniques, and knowledge about food. While the men were out hunting, the women were often the ones who knew how to prepare and transform the food into something both nourishing and meaningful. Their work was both practical and cultural. Food preparation wasn't just about sustenance, it was also about storytelling, ritual, and the preservation of culture. The ways in which food was prepared and shared became an integral part of the tribe's social fabric, and the women played a central role in maintaining these traditions. The role of women in food preparation wasn't just limited to the kitchen, they also played an important part in the broader economy of the tribe. They were often responsible for preserving and trading food with neighboring tribes, exchanging dried meats, fish, and vegetables for other essential goods. This trade was vital for the survival of the community, especially during the long winter months when fresh resources were scarce. Women were often the ones who managed these trades, making sure the tribe had what it needed to survive and thrive. It's fascinating to consider how much of the food that sustained these communities in winter was made possible by the women's knowledge and skills. Without their contributions, survival would have been much more difficult. Women ensured that the tribe had the right mix of nutrition to maintain their strength and health during the long, cold months. They didn't just cook meals, they ensured the entire tribe could survive, thrive, and maintain their culture, even in the harshest of environments. As we continue to explore the ways in which food impacted Native American winter survival, we'll turn our attention to the importance of health and nutrition during this time. Keeping the body strong was critical, and the foods they consumed played a major role in ensuring the tribe stayed healthy through the toughest seasons. Let's take a closer look at how nutrition and health were maintained in the winter months, and how food helped to protect against the illnesses that could devastate a community during such harsh conditions. Surviving the brutal winter months wasn't just about having enough food, it was about ensuring that the food consumed was nourishing enough to keep the body strong, healthy, and resilient. The cold temperatures of winter made the body work overtime to stay warm, burning calories faster than in milder months. This meant that the foods Native Americans ate during winter had to be nutrient-dense, with the right balance of fats, proteins, and vitamins to help maintain energy, stave off fatigue, and protect the body from illness. In a world without modern medicine or antibiotics, the importance of nutrition during winter was even more critical. The body needed to stay strong to fight off the common ailments that could easily devastate a community when resources were limited. Illnesses like the flu, pneumonia, and other winter-related diseases could spread quickly and decimate a tribe if the people were weakened from malnutrition. This is why the diet had to be carefully considered, with an emphasis on foods that not only provided calories but also fortified the immune system and supported overall health. One of the most important sources of nutrition came from fats, particularly the fats found in the meats of large animals like buffalo, moose, and deer. These fats were rich in energy and could help insulate the body against the cold, as well as keep the body functioning efficiently during long periods of physical exertion. Bone marrow, as we've seen, was another rich source of fat, packed with essential nutrients that helped maintain energy levels and protect the body from the cold. Fatty meats, in particular, were a key component of the diet during winter. These meats were calorie-dense and provided a steady source of energy. When the body was working hard to stay warm, having a readily available source of energy was crucial. These animal fats not only kept people warm but also served as a source of vitamins, particularly fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A and vitamin D, which were difficult to obtain during the winter months when sunlight was scarce. But it wasn't just about fat. Protein was equally important, especially for maintaining muscle mass and strength. The leaner meats, such as rabbit, squirrel, and smaller game animals, provided the necessary protein to keep the body's muscles strong, ensuring that people could continue to perform the physical tasks required for survival. Protein from fish was also an important component of the winter diet. The rich, fatty fish like trout, pike, and walleye were packed with essential omega-3 fatty acids, which not only provided energy but also supported cardiovascular health. In addition to protein and fats, vitamins and minerals were crucial for winter survival. Dried berries and fruits were vital sources of these nutrients, providing a much-needed boost of vitamins, especially vitamin C, which helped prevent scurvy, a disease caused by vitamin C deficiency that was particularly common during the winter months. Without access to fresh fruits and vegetables, these dried berries and plants were the only way to ensure the body received enough vitamins to stay healthy. In fact, some tribes were known to store dried berries like cranberries, blueberries, and raspberries, using them as both a food source and a natural remedy for ailments. Roots and tubers, too, played a significant role in providing important nutrients during the winter. While they didn't pack as many calories as meat, they were rich in carbohydrates, fiber, and vitamins. Roots like wild onions and garlic were also used not only as food, but for their medicinal properties. These plants were believed to have healing qualities, and they were often used in teas or as part of soups to help prevent illness. Garlic, in particular, was thought to have antibacterial and antiviral properties, which would help ward off infection and sickness in the winter months. The winter diet wasn't just about survival in the immediate sense, it was also about maintaining the long-term health of the community. Eating a balanced diet rich in fats, proteins, and vitamins helped ensure that people didn't just survive the winter, but thrived in it. The foods they consumed were not only designed to fuel the body but also to protect it from the elements and the diseases that came with the season. It's fascinating to think about how these foods, simple yet powerful, provided everything the Native Americans needed to stay healthy and strong during a time when life was hard and every resource had to be carefully managed. The fact that they were able to maintain their health in such extreme conditions speaks to their ingenuity, resourcefulness, and deep understanding of the land they lived on. As we continue exploring the intricate relationship between food and health during the winter, we'll turn our attention to how medicinal plants and natural remedies were used to prevent and treat winter ailments. In a time before pharmacies and doctors, the knowledge of healing plants became an essential tool in surviving the cold season. Let's dive into how these natural remedies help to keep the community healthy and protected from winter's many dangers. As the bitter winds howled outside and the snow piled up, Native American communities didn't just rely on their food for physical sustenance, they also turned to the earth's natural remedies to stay healthy and prevent illness. The knowledge of medicinal plants and herbs was passed down through generations, and this deep understanding of the land was crucial for surviving the harsh winter months. Without the modern medicines we have today, these natural remedies played a central role in protecting the body from the cold and the illnesses that often accompanied it. In the absence of doctors or pharmacies, the tribes relied on the healing properties of plants to treat everything from colds and fevers to wounds and infections. Many plants had antimicrobial, antifungal, and antiviral properties, which were especially important during the winter months, when the cold and damp conditions made it easier for diseases to spread. For example, plants like echinacea and ginseng were highly valued for their immune-boosting qualities. These plants were often made into teas or tinctures, which were consumed regularly to help the body fight off illness. Echinacea, in particular, was known for its ability to stimulate the immune system, and it was used to treat a variety of ailments, from common colds to more serious infections. The roots and flowers were boiled or steeped in water to create a medicinal tea, which was drunk regularly to boost overall health. Ginseng, another well-known herb, was prized for its adaptogenic properties, meaning it helped the body adapt to stress and maintain balance. It was often used to treat fatigue and exhaustion, both of which were common during the harsh winter months when food was scarce and energy was low. Beyond boosting the immune system, many other plants were used to relieve the symptoms of winter ailments. For instance, the leaves of the yarrow plant were used to make teas that helped reduce fever and treat colds. Yarrow was also believed to promote sweating, which helped the body flush out toxins. Sage, another popular herb, was used to treat respiratory issues. A steam made from sage leaves was inhaled to help clear the sinuses and soothe sore throats, which were common during the cold months. Native American knowledge of medicinal plants wasn't just about treating physical ailments, it was also about maintaining emotional and mental health. Winter, with its long nights and isolation, could take a psychological toll. To combat this, many tribes turned to plants like lavender and peppermint to lift spirits and soothe nerves. Lavender was often used in sachets or placed under pillows to promote restful sleep, while peppermint was added to teas to refresh and invigorate the mind. These plants helped maintain emotional balance during a time when it was easy to feel downhearted or exhausted. Another important medicinal plant was spruce, which was used for its vitamin C content. In a time when fresh fruit was unavailable, the inner bark of the spruce tree provided an essential source of this vital nutrient. Spruce bark was often boiled to make a tea, which was consumed to prevent scurvy, a disease caused by vitamin C deficiency. The tea was not only nutritious but also offered warmth, making it a perfect remedy during the cold, dreary days of winter. While the plants themselves were invaluable, the knowledge of how to use them was equally important. Each tribe had its own collection of traditional remedies, passed down through generations. Women, in particular, played a significant role in preserving this knowledge, as they were often the primary caregivers in the community. They would gather medicinal plants, prepare them for use, and share their knowledge with younger generations. This oral tradition ensured that the healing practices of the past continued to benefit the tribe through the present and into the future. But it wasn't just plants that were used to maintain health during winter. animal products also played a significant role in medicinal practices. The fats from animals like moose, elk, and buffalo were often used as salves for dry skin or applied to wounds to promote healing. These fats were also used in rituals, where they were believed to carry spiritual significance and provide protection against illness. In addition to their healing properties, these natural remedies were often seen as sacred. The relationship between the people and the plants they used was one of reverence and respect. Many tribes believed that the plants and animals they used for medicine had spirits that needed to be honored. For example, before gathering herbs or plants, it was common to offer a prayer or a small token of gratitude to the spirits of the plants, acknowledging the role they played in sustaining the community. This spiritual connection to the land and its resources was a key part of Native American culture and played a significant role in maintaining the health and well-being of the community during the winter months. As we continue to explore the ways in which Native American communities survived the winter, it's clear that their resilience was not just about physical survival. It was about understanding the land, respecting its gifts, and living in harmony with the world around them. Their knowledge of plants and natural remedies was a testament to their deep connection with nature, and it helped them endure even the harshest winters. In the next section, we'll explore how their connection to the land went beyond food and medicine, how it shaped their entire way of life, and their survival strategies during the coldest months of the year. The survival strategies of Native American communities were intricately woven into the fabric of their relationship with the land, and this relationship extended far beyond food and medicine. It was a connection rooted in respect, reciprocity, and a deep understanding of the environment in which they lived. The land was more than just a resource, it was sacred, and every aspect of daily life reflected this profound connection. Winter, with its frozen landscapes and long nights, presented its own unique challenges, but the land and its rhythms had prepared them to meet these trials with resilience. One of the key ways in which Native Americans adapted to winter was through the careful management of resources. They understood that the earth was not just something to be taken from, but something that needed to be respected and cared for. This mindset was crucial to surviving the harsh winters, as it allowed them to live sustainably, making the most of what the land provided without overexploiting it. For example, the hunting of large game was done with great respect for the animals. The buffalo, moose, and deer were essential for survival, providing not just food but also materials for clothing, tools, and shelter. However, Native Americans didn't hunt these animals indiscriminately. They followed seasonal patterns and ensured that their hunting practices didn't deplete the animal populations. There were ceremonial hunts and rituals dedicated to honoring the animals they took, recognizing their sacrifice and thanking them for providing sustenance. This respect for the animals wasn't just a spiritual belief, it was a practical approach to ensuring that future generations would continue to have access to the resources they relied on. In addition to hunting, the Native Americans also practiced sustainable foraging. They knew which plants could be gathered in the fall, which ones could be preserved, and which ones would be ready to harvest in the spring. The knowledge of the seasons was crucial, as it allowed them to gather food at the right times and store it for the colder months. They never took more than they needed, always leaving enough behind to ensure the plant could regenerate the following year. This approach to foraging was guided by the principle of balance, taking what was necessary for survival, but leaving the land to heal and replenish itself. This respect for the land and its resources extended to the way food was prepared and stored. Native Americans had developed methods of preserving food that were not only practical, but also sustainable. As we've seen, drying and smoking were key techniques, and they were done in ways that allowed the community to use every part of the food they gathered. Nothing went to waste, and everything had its place. Bones were used for tools, skins for clothing, and every bit of fat and marrow was turned into something useful. The careful preparation and preservation of food ensured that there would be enough to sustain the community through the hardest months. One of the most significant aspects of Native American survival in winter was their ability to adapt to the land's changes. As the seasons shifted, so did their way of life. They understood the rhythms of nature, the way the earth rested in the winter, the way animals hibernated or migrated, and the way the plants went dormant. This knowledge allowed them to thrive in the harshest conditions. Winter was seen not as a time to retreat indoors and wait for spring, but as a time to engage with the land in a different way. It was a time of rest and reflection, a time to draw on the resources that had been gathered and preserved, and a time to give thanks for what the earth had provided. The spiritual connection to the land was integral to this survival strategy. For many Native American tribes, the land wasn't just a physical space, it was imbued with spiritual significance. Mountains, rivers, forests, and animals all had their own spirits, and these spirits needed to be honored. Rituals and ceremonies were held throughout the year, especially during the changing of the seasons, to ensure that the land would continue to provide for the people. These ceremonies were often tied to the harvests and hunts, with the people offering prayers of gratitude and asking for the continued blessing of the land. This connection to the land also influenced how they viewed time. While many cultures today view winter as a period of dormancy, the Native Americans saw it as part of a larger cycle. Winter was simply the resting phase, a time for renewal. They understood that just as the earth needed to rest during the cold months, so too did the people. The stillness of winter allowed for reflection, a time to gather strength for the new growth that would come with spring. For the northern tribes, where winters were the harshest, winter survival strategies also involved utilizing the snow itself. Snow was seen not only as a challenge but also as a resource. The snow could be used for insulation, and snowdrifts were often relied on to create temporary shelters in emergency situations. The Inuit, for example, were known for building igloos, using compacted snow to create structures that provided warmth and protection from the elements. The snow, though cold and unforgiving, became a tool in their survival arsenal. The ability to use snow, ice, and cold winds as part of their survival strategy was yet another example of the Native Americans' deep connection to the land. They didn't just survive winter, they adapted to it, learned from it, and thrived in it. As we reflect on these survival strategies, it's clear that the relationship between Native American communities and the land was one of deep respect and harmony. They didn't just survive the winter, they did so with an understanding of the land's rhythms and the wisdom to adapt to its changes. In the next section, we'll explore how these survival practices shaped the legacy of Native American cultures and influenced modern survival techniques and sustainable practices. The legacy of Native American survival practices extends far beyond the harsh winter months they endured. The knowledge, wisdom, and strategies they developed for surviving in some of the harshest environments on Earth have shaped not only their cultures, but also modern-day survival techniques and sustainable practices. The ways in which they lived in harmony with the land, respected its cycles, and made use of every available resource have influenced countless generations, both within their communities and beyond. In the modern world, many people look to Native American survival techniques as models of sustainability and resilience. The principles of not overharvesting, using only what is necessary, and ensuring that the land is respected and cared for are more relevant today than ever before. As we face climate change, environmental degradation, and the depletion of natural resources, the Native American approach to living in balance with nature provides valuable lessons for how we can adapt and thrive in the face of uncertainty. One of the most significant aspects of Native American survival practices was their understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. For them, every plant, animal, and element of nature had its place in the greater web of life. This holistic worldview meant that they saw the land not just as a source of resources, but as a living entity that required respect and care. Whether it was through hunting practices that ensured sustainable populations of game, or farming techniques that worked with the natural environment, the idea of stewardship was central to Native American life. This focus on sustainability is particularly relevant today, as modern society increasingly turns to more sustainable practices in agriculture, resource management, and conservation. Techniques like crop rotation, water conservation, and the use of native plants in landscaping all echo the ways Native Americans traditionally worked with the land. For example, the Three Sisters corn, beans, and squash were planted together in a way that benefited all three crops. The corn provided support for the beans to climb, the beans fixed nitrogen in the soil, and the squash acted as ground cover to keep weeds in check. This ancient agricultural technique is now recognized as a model of sustainable farming, demonstrating how understanding the natural balance can yield bountiful crops without depleting the land. Additionally, the principles of food preservation such as drying, smoking, and fermenting are now gaining renewed attention in the context of sustainability. These techniques, which allowed Native American communities to store food for the long winter months, are being revisited as modern methods to reduce food waste and extend the shelf life of food without relying on refrigeration or excessive packaging. In a time when food security and environmental sustainability are top priorities, these practices offer valuable insights into how we can live more sustainably while reducing our environmental impact. Another area where Native American survival strategies have influenced modern practices is in the field of medicine. The use of medicinal plants, many of which were integral to winter survival, has become the foundation for much of modern herbal medicine. Plants like echinacea, ginseng, yarrow, and lavender, once used by Native Americans to treat colds, fevers, and other ailments, are now widely recognized for their healing properties. This connection between traditional knowledge and modern health practices highlights the lasting impact of Native American wisdom in the field of natural healing. Perhaps one of the most profound legacies of Native American survival practices is their relationship with the land. This relationship was built on the understanding that the earth is a living, breathing entity that must be treated with respect. The lessons of sustainability, stewardship, and interconnectedness that were passed down through generations have the power to inspire a modern-day movement toward more eco-conscious living. As people worldwide become more aware of environmental issues, Native American teachings about living in balance with nature can help guide efforts to protect the earth for future generations. The wisdom embedded in Native American survival strategies is not confined to history. It continues to inspire and shape contemporary approaches to sustainability, resilience, and ecological stewardship. Whether through the revival of ancient farming techniques, the use of natural remedies, or the promotion of sustainable living practices, Native American traditions offer valuable lessons for how we can adapt to the challenges of the modern world. As we reflect on the incredible resilience and ingenuity of Native American communities, we begin to see that their survival strategies were not just about enduring harsh winters, they were about thriving in harmony with nature. These practices, grounded in respect, balance, and sustainability, have stood the test of time, offering a blueprint for how we can live more sustainably and harmoniously with the earth. In the final section of this journey, we'll explore how these ancient practices have not only influenced modern survival techniques, but have also left an indelible mark on the cultures and people who continue to carry them forward today. Let's take a moment to look at the ongoing legacy of Native American survival strategies and how they continue to shape our world. The enduring legacy of Native American survival strategies is felt today not only through the revival of their sustainable practices, but also in the way their cultural values continue to shape the lives of modern communities. From environmental conservation efforts to the growing interest in natural healing, Native American teachings on living in harmony with nature have left an indelible mark on the world. These practices, which allowed their ancestors to survive the harshest winters and build thriving communities, now serve as a source of inspiration for addressing the pressing challenges of today's world. In the modern context, Native American tribes are at the forefront of conservation efforts and sustainable agriculture. Many tribes are actively working to restore traditional land management practices, such as controlled burns and the revitalization of native plant species, to promote biodiversity and restore ecological balance. These practices, which were once essential for winter survival, are now being recognized as vital tools for combating climate change and protecting the environment. The wisdom that guided the stewardship of the land thousands of years ago is being brought into the present as tribes work to reverse the damage caused by industrial farming, deforestation, and overexploitation of natural resources. The principle of taking only what is needed is a core value that continues to influence Native American approaches to food and resource management. Many tribes are reviving traditional farming methods, including the planting of Three Sisters crops, corn, beans, and squash in a way that enhances soil fertility and reduces the need for chemical fertilizers. This sustainable approach not only yields bountiful harvests but also nurtures the earth, ensuring that the land remains productive for generations to come. This philosophy has been incorporated into modern organic farming and permaculture practices, showing how ancient wisdom can address contemporary issues of sustainability and food security. Moreover, the influence of Native American knowledge of medicinal plants and natural remedies is experiencing a resurgence. Today, many people are turning to herbal medicine, drawn from the same plants that were used by Native Americans for centuries. The benefits of plants like echinacea, sage, and ginseng are now widely recognized in mainstream wellness practices as people seek alternatives to synthetic drugs and more holistic ways to support their health. The modern interest in plant-based healing reflects a broader shift toward natural, sustainable health practices, one that aligns closely with the way Native Americans lived in balance with the earth. The enduring influence of Native American survival practices is also evident in the growing movement towards self-sufficiency and sustainable living. As people increasingly look for ways to reduce their reliance on external systems and reconnect with nature, Native American approaches to food preservation, renewable energy, and natural building techniques are being rediscovered. The practices of hunting, fishing, and farming that once ensured the survival of these communities are now being adapted to modern lifestyles, with a focus on sustainable food production, responsible land use, and living off the land in a way that minimizes environmental impact. In addition to their influence on environmental and health practices, Native American traditions continue to shape the cultural fabric of modern society. Many of the values that guided winter survival, such as cooperation, respect for nature, and community solidarity, are still evident in Native American communities today. These values are being passed down to younger generations, ensuring that the wisdom of their ancestors continues to guide their way of life. The resilience and resourcefulness that enabled their forebears to survive harsh winters are qualities that remain a central part of Native American identity. The survival strategies that enabled Native Americans to thrive in the most unforgiving of environments were not only practical, they were deeply spiritual. The connection to the land was not just a matter of survival, it was a relationship grounded in reverence and respect for the earth and all its creatures. This spiritual connection continues to be a defining aspect of Native American cultures today, influencing everything from traditional ceremonies to contemporary environmental activism. The belief that all living things are interconnected and that the earth must be honored and cared for is a core value that continues to inspire individuals and communities around the world. As we look to the future, the lessons of Native American survival in winter remind us that resilience is not just about enduring hardship, it's about living in harmony with the natural world. It's about understanding the cycles of the earth, respecting the resources we have, and using them wisely. It's about finding balance in a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable. And perhaps most importantly, it's about remembering that survival is not just an individual endeavor, it's a collective effort, one that requires cooperation, respect, and care for the world around us. In closing, the wisdom of Native American survival strategies offers a timeless blueprint for living sustainably and harmoniously with the earth. Their practices, rooted in a deep understanding of nature and a respect for its rhythms, continue to resonate in today's world. As we face the challenges of the present and future, the survival strategies of Native Americans offer both guidance and inspiration, showing us how we can live in balance with nature and create a more resilient, sustainable future for all. As we reflect on the wisdom and resilience of Native American communities, it becomes evident that their survival strategies were not just about enduring the cold, it was about thriving in the face of adversity. Their relationship with nature, grounded in respect and reciprocity, allowed them to not only survive the harsh winters, but also build vibrant, sustainable cultures that adapted to the land in ways that modern societies are only beginning to recognize. One of the most profound lessons we can draw from the survival strategies of Native Americans is the importance of adaptability. The environment was never constant, seasons changed, animals migrated, and resources fluctuated. Yet, Native Americans were able to adapt to these changes with remarkable efficiency and grace. They didn't simply react to challenges, they anticipated them, learned from them, and adjusted their practices to ensure that they would continue to thrive. This adaptability wasn't just about survival in a physical sense, it was about cultural resilience. Over centuries, Native American tribes developed customs, traditions, and practices that allowed them to maintain their identity in the face of shifting climates, fluctuating resources, and, eventually, outside pressures. Their ability to endure while remaining deeply connected to their land and traditions speaks volumes about the strength of their cultures. In the winter months, when food was scarce and the days were shorter, the communal ties that held Native American communities together were tested. But through shared meals, rituals, and the collective effort of preparing food and preserving resources, they maintained a sense of unity that transcended the individual. These social bonds were just as important as the food they gathered. The act of gathering around the fire to share a meal, to celebrate survival, and to express gratitude for what the land provided was a fundamental part of their resilience. This sense of community is a powerful reminder for us today. In an increasingly fragmented world, where individualism often takes precedence, the lessons of collective effort and shared responsibility are more relevant than ever. Native American survival during the winter was a communal endeavor, where everyone had a role to play, and everyone depended on each other for support. It's this spirit of collaboration and shared purpose that can guide us through the challenges we face today, from environmental crises to social and economic struggles. Another key element in the survival of Native American communities was their deep knowledge of the land and its cycles. Their understanding of the natural world wasn't just practical, it was spiritual. For Native Americans, the land wasn't something to be exploited, it was a living entity, full of spirits and life. This spiritual connection to the earth was fundamental to their survival. It was a reminder that they were not separate from nature, but an integral part of it. Their survival was not a one-sided relationship with the earth. It was a mutual exchange. They gave thanks to the land for its bounty, and in turn, took only what they needed to ensure the balance was maintained. This reverence for nature was deeply embedded in every aspect of Native American life. It wasn't just about the food they ate or the medicines they used, it was about the way they approached every aspect of their lives. From hunting and gathering to building shelters and creating art. Every aspect of their culture was intertwined with their relationship to the land. And this connection was what allowed them to live sustainably in some of the most challenging environments on Earth. As we face the environmental challenges of the modern world, there is much to learn from the Native American approach to nature. The principles of sustainability, stewardship, and respect for the earth are more urgent now than ever. In an age where resources are increasingly strained and climate change threatens the delicate balance of ecosystems, the wisdom of Native American survival strategies offers a blueprint for how we can live more harmoniously with the earth. Looking at Native American cultures today, it's clear that their resilience continues to shine. Though many tribes were displaced and their traditional ways of life disrupted, Native American communities have demonstrated remarkable strength in preserving their cultural practices and passing them down to future generations. In recent years, there has been a resurgence of interest in Native American traditions, particularly in the areas of sustainable farming, herbal medicine, and environmental conservation. This revitalization is a testament to the enduring legacy of their survival strategies and their deep connection to the land. In this final reflection, it's essential to acknowledge the challenges that Native American communities continue to face, from ongoing struggles with land rights and sovereignty to the impacts of historical trauma. Despite these obstacles, the survival strategies that were developed centuries ago continue to inspire and inform the ways in which Native Americans are reclaiming their traditions and fighting for a better future. They are not just surviving, they are thriving, drawing strength from their ancestors and their land. As we conclude this journey through the survival practices of Native American communities, we are reminded of the power of resilience, community, and respect for the earth. These lessons, forged in the harshest winters, offer us guidance for navigating the challenges of our own time. Whether in our approach to sustainability, our relationship with the environment, or the way we come together as communities, the wisdom of Native American survival continues to resonate, guiding us toward a more balanced and harmonious future. As we draw near the end of our exploration into Native American survival strategies, it's impossible to ignore the profound impact these practices continue to have on modern society. The lessons gleaned from their resilience, adaptability, and reverence for the land resonate not only in the survival techniques they developed, but in the broader cultural and environmental values they embodied. Through every harsh winter, through every challenge the land presented, Native American communities cultivated a deep, unshakable bond with the earth, a bond that allowed them to endure and thrive where others might have faltered. The idea of balance, the harmony between human needs and the natural world, was at the core of their survival. This balance was not just a philosophical ideal, it was a practical necessity. The reliance on sustainable practices, where the land provided for them, but also required careful stewardship in return, is a model we are only beginning to truly appreciate in the modern age. The lessons about land management, natural resource preservation, and communal living could not be more urgent as we face the modern challenges of climate change, loss of biodiversity, and the overuse of natural resources. Take, for instance, the practice of using every part of the animal. Native American communities did not see hunting as an activity for mere sustenance. It was an opportunity to honor the life of the animal and ensure that nothing was wasted. The meat was eaten, the fat was rendered, the bones were used for tools, the hide for clothing, and the sinew for cords. It's an approach that mirrored their entire worldview, which saw humans as part of the ecosystem, not apart from it. Today, the push towards zero-waste living and the movement toward more ethical, sustainable consumption reflects these ancient values. We are learning that our relationships with animals and the earth must be symbiotic, not exploitative, if we are to survive and thrive as a global community. This mindset also extended to the plants they gathered. The practice of foraging for wild herbs, berries, and roots was deeply rooted in an understanding of ecological sustainability. Native Americans knew the right time to harvest, ensuring that plants could regenerate and continue to provide in future seasons. They understood that taking too much from the land could deplete its resources, and they respected the plants by using only what was necessary. This respect for the land, combined with the ability to live off the earth without overburdening it, is a model that modern societies are slowly rediscovering. The rise in popularity of permaculture, organic farming, and plant-based diets are all reflective of this shift towards more sustainable, land-based living. The revitalization of these ancient practices within Native American communities is particularly inspiring. Many tribes are now reclaiming their lands, reviving their traditional agricultural practices, and restoring ecosystems that were once disrupted by colonization and industrialization. For example, the Blackfeet Nation, which has long depended on the buffalo for food, clothing, and tools, is now working to restore buffalo herds to their historic lands. This effort not only helps preserve an important cultural tradition but also contributes to the restoration of grasslands that are vital to the ecosystem. Similarly, the Yakama Nation's work in restoring salmon populations in the Pacific Northwest underscores the deep connection between food sources and environmental health. The return of the salmon is not just about restoring a fish species, it's about restoring the health of entire ecosystems and ensuring that future generations can benefit from the land in the same way their ancestors did. Native American survival practices also continue to inspire the growing field of indigenous food sovereignty, which emphasizes the right of native peoples to define their own food systems. In a world where corporate agriculture and fast food have created dependency on processed and unhealthy foods, indigenous food sovereignty promotes the return to traditional diets, those that are closely tied to the land and rich in nutrients. This movement not only improves the health of native communities but also empowers them to reclaim their cultural heritage and assert their sovereignty over their land and resources. As we move forward into an uncertain future, the lessons of Native American survival strategies offer us not just practical knowledge about food, medicine, and sustainability, but also spiritual guidance. Their ability to live in harmony with nature, to respect the cycles of life, and to give thanks for the land's gifts speaks to a deeper truth about the interconnectedness of all things. The Native American worldview teaches us that the survival of one is inextricably linked to the survival of the whole. In modern times, this concept is crucial as we face global challenges that require collective action, whether that's combating climate change, addressing social inequalities, or building sustainable economies. In closing, the story of Native American winter survival is one of ingenuity, resilience, and a deep spiritual connection to the earth. It is a story that transcends time, offering valuable lessons that continue to guide us today. Their survival, in the face of harsh winters, was not just about enduring the cold, but about adapting, respecting the land, and living in balance with the world around them. As we face our own challenges, may we draw inspiration from their wisdom, understanding that our survival, too, depends on our ability to live in harmony with the land and with each other. As we reflect on the lasting impact of Native American survival strategies, it's clear that their way of life was not just about enduring physical hardship. It was a deeply holistic approach that encompassed everything from food production to spiritual practices, from community building to environmental stewardship. These strategies, honed over thousands of years, allowed Native American communities to thrive in some of the harshest climates on Earth, and they offer valuable insights for our modern world, where we are increasingly confronted by environmental crises, social challenges, and questions about sustainability. One of the most important takeaways from Native American survival methods is the understanding that survival is not just about individual effort, it's about the collective. In the winter months, when food was scarce and the cold was biting, entire communities would come together to ensure that everyone had what they needed. Whether it was pooling food supplies, sharing resources, or working together to build shelter, these communities understood the power of solidarity and shared responsibility. In many ways, this sense of unity helped foster resilience. If one person struggled, the whole tribe would step in to offer support. This communal spirit is something that we can apply in our own lives today. In a world where individualism often takes precedence, the lessons of community building and mutual support that Native Americans practiced are more important than ever. Whether it's in times of economic hardship, social unrest, or environmental challenges, there is power in working together. These communities have shown us that when we unite with others to face adversity, we are far more likely to endure and thrive. Another key lesson is the importance of sustainability. In an era where we face serious environmental challenges, including the depletion of natural resources, the preservation of biodiversity, and the accelerating effects of climate change, the Native American approach to resource management is more relevant than ever. Their survival strategies were deeply rooted in the principle of balance that the earth provides, but only if we respect and care for it in return. Native Americans knew the importance of working with nature, not against it. Whether it was through sustainable farming practices, careful hunting methods, or the respectful harvesting of plants, they lived in a way that allowed them to meet their needs without depleting the earth's resources. Today, many modern sustainability practices draw inspiration from these ancient methods. Practices such as permaculture, which emphasizes working with nature to create self-sustaining ecosystems, and community-based food sovereignty, which seeks to return food production to local, sustainable methods, reflect this timeless wisdom. Native American agricultural techniques like crop rotation and companion planting, which worked in harmony with the land's natural rhythms, are now being incorporated into modern farming systems as a way to increase food security while reducing environmental impact. As we strive to mitigate the effects of climate change, we must remember that the solutions we seek are often right in front of us, rooted in the wisdom of cultures that have long known how to live in balance with nature. It's not about reinventing the wheel, but looking back to traditions that respected and nurtured the land, ensuring that it would provide for generations to come. This is the kind of forward thinking that Native American communities embodied in their everyday practices, and it's a model that we can and should adopt in the face of our own environmental challenges. Of course, Native American survival strategies were not just about the relationship with the land, but also the relationship with each other. The importance of community, shared responsibility, and interdependence cannot be overstated. The survival of the tribe depended not only on the land, but on the people who inhabited it. Families worked together, supported one another, and took part in communal rituals and ceremonies that reinforced their connection to each other and to the world around them. These practices were vital to maintaining not just physical survival, but social cohesion, emotional well-being, and spiritual health. Today, we can see how this sense of community is still alive in many Native American tribes. Through cultural revitalization efforts, these communities continue to pass down their traditions, beliefs, and practices, ensuring that future generations will inherit not only the knowledge of how to survive, but also the values of unity, cooperation, and respect for the land. These values are being shared beyond the boundaries of Native communities, inspiring people from all walks of life to build stronger, more resilient communities that prioritize sustainability, cooperation, and care for the earth. Moreover, as Native Americans continue to lead efforts to reclaim their land, restore ecosystems, and revive traditional agricultural practices, they are demonstrating a powerful example of resilience and agency. Their efforts to protect sacred lands, restore the health of rivers, forests, and wildlife, and promote cultural sustainability are not just about preserving the past, they are about shaping a future where Indigenous wisdom plays a central role in solving the challenges we face as a global community. In a world where so much of our attention is focused on the future, the story of Native American survival offers a valuable reminder. The answers we seek often lie in the wisdom of the past. Their ability to live in balance with the natural world, to work together as a community, and to respect the Earth's resources is as relevant today as it ever was. As we continue to navigate the complexities of modern life, the teachings of Native American cultures provide us with a roadmap for living sustainably, for creating strong communities, and for protecting the planet for generations to come. In closing, the story of Native American survival during the harsh winters is one of profound resilience, respect, and wisdom. It is a story that has endured for centuries, not just as a historical account, but as a living, breathing legacy that continues to inspire us. The lessons of balance, sustainability, community, and respect for the earth are timeless, and as we face the challenges of our own time, we would do well to look to these teachings as we build a more sustainable, harmonious future. As we come to the final chapter of our journey through Native American survival strategies, it's clear that the wisdom of these practices isn't confined to history. The lessons of resilience, adaptability, and respect for nature continue to guide us today. Native American communities lived through harsh winters not only by understanding the physical world, but by integrating their way of life with the spiritual and communal aspects of survival. In doing so, they created a rich, sustainable existence that balanced both material and spiritual needs. Throughout the winter months, when isolation and scarcity seemed inevitable, survival wasn't just about managing food reserves, it was about maintaining the health of the community, both physically and emotionally. The winter months often brought more than just physical hardship. They brought a mental and emotional toll as well. During long stretches of cold and darkness, it was easy to feel disconnected, isolated, or defeated. Yet, the way Native American tribes approached this challenge speaks volumes about the importance of community and mutual support. One of the most beautiful aspects of Native American survival strategies is the focus on collective well-being. When one person struggled, others would step in to help, whether through physical support, emotional encouragement, or shared resources. This collective effort meant that the survival of each individual was tied to the survival of the group. The health of the community wasn't just about food and shelter. It was about maintaining connections, offering support, and lifting each other up when the challenges of winter seemed insurmountable. In addition to this, the role of rituals and ceremonies cannot be underestimated. The spiritual connection to nature that Native Americans maintained throughout the year, particularly during winter, helped to provide both a sense of purpose and a way to stay emotionally grounded. Ceremonies were more than religious practices, they were ways of reminding the people of their connection to the land, to the animals, and to each other. They reaffirmed the sacredness of life and the belief that the struggles of winter would give way to the renewal of spring. These rituals brought a sense of hope and continuity, reminding the community that even in the darkest months, there was light ahead. This spiritual aspect of survival was not only about enduring but about thriving, both physically and mentally. When the physical resources seemed scarce, the spiritual and communal practices ensured that the people's spirits remained strong. These rituals created a sense of continuity and hope, offering reassurance that the cycles of nature would continue as they always had. In modern terms, this is akin to the psychological resilience that helps people through periods of hardship, providing strength and motivation to move forward. What's even more remarkable is the way these practices were not only about survival, but about nurturing a sustainable relationship with the land. The Native Americans didn't view the earth merely as a resource to be extracted. They saw it as a living entity that must be cared for and respected. This perspective is essential today as we look for ways to restore environmental balance and heal our planet. By learning from the way Native communities have lived in harmony with the earth for centuries, we can begin to think differently about our own relationship with nature, one based on respect, sustainability, and care. This holistic worldview, where the physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of life are interwoven with the land, provides a blueprint for modern-day environmental and social practices. It's not just about what we take from the earth, it's about what we give back, how we ensure the well-being of future generations, and how we live in balance with the world around us. From sustainable agriculture to community-driven environmental justice movements, the influence of Native American values on contemporary environmentalism is undeniable. As we take these lessons into our daily lives, there's much we can learn from the way Native Americans approached survival during the winter months. They didn't just rely on their physical resources, they relied on each other, on their deep connection to the land, and on their cultural practices to sustain them through adversity. In a world that can often feel fragmented and disconnected, their focus on community, balance, and respect is a powerful reminder of how we can live more harmoniously and sustainably. Looking ahead, it's clear that the future will require us to be more resourceful, more adaptable, and more connected not just to each other, but to the earth that sustains us. As we face challenges like climate change, food security, and social inequality, we must remember that the answers often lie in the lessons of the past. The resilience of Native American cultures, built on thousands of years of knowledge and practice, offers a guiding light for how we can adapt to the challenges ahead. In closing, the story of Native American survival during the harshest winters is one of wisdom, strength, and community. It is a testament to the enduring power of connection to the land, to each other, and to the cycles of nature. These lessons, learned over centuries, offer a path forward for us all. If we choose to honor them, we can build a future that is not only sustainable but also one that reflects the deep wisdom of those who have lived in harmony with the earth for generations. So, as we face the future, let's remember the lessons of the past, to honor the land, to care for our communities, and to live with respect for all life. In doing so, we can ensure that the legacy of resilience, wisdom, and harmony continues for generations to come. As we move into the final stretch of our journey through the history of Native American survival, we are left with not just a sense of awe, but a deep appreciation for the resilience and wisdom of these remarkable communities. Their ability to adapt to the harshest of winters, using the land as both provider and teacher, has much to offer modern society. Their survival wasn't just about physical endurance, it was about understanding their environment, living in harmony with it, and sustaining not only their bodies but their culture, community, and spirit. What we have learned from their practices, however, is more than just about surviving extreme conditions. It's about thriving despite adversity. The mental strength required to endure months of cold, limited food, and isolation was just as critical as the physical preparations made for survival. In many ways, the mental fortitude that Native American communities cultivated through their seasonal cycles, rituals, and community support can teach us how to navigate our own trials in the modern world. Today, we face a world that, in many ways, mirrors some of the struggles of Native American ancestors. Whether it's the ongoing environmental crises, the fragmentation of communities, or the struggle to sustain natural resources, the challenges are daunting. Yet, the lessons drawn from Native American survival tactics, lessons in resourcefulness, community, and respect for nature offer solutions that are grounded not in futuristic technology or disconnected ideologies, but in age-old practices that align us with the earth and each other. The modern-day resurgence of interest in Native American survival methods, sustainable agriculture, and holistic health practices is a testament to the timeless nature of these teachings. Communities around the world are beginning to see the value of returning to more sustainable ways of living, from small-scale organic farming to the revival of indigenous planting techniques, like crop rotation and companion planting. These practices, which may have seemed antiquated just a few generations ago, are now being hailed as cutting-edge solutions to the challenges of overconsumption and ecological degradation. But there's more to these practices than their environmental benefits. There's also a deep spiritual component that resonates with those seeking a more meaningful connection to the land and to each other. As we confront the ecological and social crises of our time, many people are turning to indigenous wisdom for answers, not because they're looking for a way to return to the past, but because they recognize that these practices contain profound truths about how to live in balance with the earth and with one another. The deep respect for the earth and its resources, which Native Americans have embodied for centuries, provides a guiding framework for living in a way that doesn't exploit nature but nurtures it. In a world increasingly defined by urbanization, disconnection, and consumerism, it can be difficult to imagine how we could ever adopt such a holistic, sustainable way of living. However, as we've seen, Native American survival wasn't just about practical skills. It was a way of seeing the world, a worldview that saw the interconnectedness of all life. Their ability to thrive in the harshest of winters wasn't just a matter of resource management, it was a matter of perspective. They saw themselves as part of the land, as stewards of the earth, and as caretakers of a shared future. In modern times, the survival strategies that Native Americans developed still offer valuable guidance for tackling our global challenges. The methods they used to preserve food, harvest plants, and manage their resources are now seen as critical tools in the fight against food insecurity and environmental destruction. Whether it's using solar power to sustain homes in remote areas, growing food sustainably using indigenous agricultural methods, or creating community gardens to support local food systems, Native American survival strategies are influencing new movements dedicated to environmental justice, sustainability, and food sovereignty. Moreover, the respect for community and the sense of shared responsibility that was so central to their survival continues to influence modern social movements. From indigenous activism to community-led environmental campaigns, there's a growing recognition of the need to build communities that are not only resilient but also united in the face of challenges. Native American culture and survival, built on cooperation and collective action, offer a model for how we can build stronger, more connected societies, even in times of uncertainty. In this context, the resilience demonstrated by Native American communities in surviving winters without modern conveniences can teach us something invaluable. It is not the abundance of material wealth or technology that makes us resilient. It is our relationships, our connections to each other, to the land, and to our shared history are what allow us to thrive. This is a profound reminder that as we navigate the complex world we live in today, we must reconnect with our communities, our traditions, and our earth. In doing so, we may find the strength and wisdom we need to face the future. As we come to the conclusion of this exploration into Native American survival strategies, let's take a moment to reflect on the lessons that have emerged. The importance of community, respect for the earth, sustainable living, and the resilience to adapt to changing circumstances. These lessons are not just historical, they are crucial for our future. They remind us that survival is not just about enduring hardship, but about embracing a way of life that nurtures the land, fosters connection, and builds strength through cooperation. If we embrace these principles, we can face the challenges of our time with the same resilience that Native American communities have demonstrated for centuries. As we conclude our journey through the winter survival strategies of Native American communities, we are left with a deeper understanding of what it truly means to live in harmony with the land and each other. These ancient practices, rooted in respect for nature and an understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, offer timeless lessons for how we can navigate the challenges of the modern world. The practices that allowed Native American communities to endure harsh winters, whether through food preservation, hunting methods, communal efforts, or medicinal remedies, were not isolated actions. They were part of a larger philosophy that embraced sustainability, cooperation, and resilience. In times of adversity, it wasn't just individual survival that mattered. It was the survival of the entire community. By focusing on the collective good, Native American societies were able to create systems that ensured everyone had what they needed to survive, even in the harshest conditions. In many ways, this approach to survival contrasts sharply with the individualism that often dominates modern life. Today, we live in a world where personal success is often measured by material wealth or independence. Yet, the survival of Native American communities teaches us that true strength lies in our ability to support each other and work together. It's not about having more or doing it alone, it's about sharing, cooperating, and living in balance with the world around us. The importance of community and cooperation is not only relevant in the context of survival, but also in addressing the social and environmental challenges of our time. From climate change to inequality, the issues we face today require collective action. Just as Native American communities came together to ensure their survival through the coldest winters, we must come together to confront the challenges of the modern world. The lessons of the past, honoring the land, supporting each other, and building resilient communities, offer a roadmap for how we can create a more sustainable and equitable future. At the heart of Native American survival was their relationship with the land. They didn't view the earth as a mere resource to be exploited. They saw it as a living, breathing entity that provided not just for them, but for all life. This deep respect for nature is something that is sorely needed today. The damage done to the environment by industrialization and modern practices has led to environmental degradation, loss of biodiversity, and the depletion of natural resources. Yet, the principles that Native Americans lived by, sustainability, stewardship, and respect, offer a solution to these challenges. By returning to these values, we can begin to repair the damage done and create a more balanced relationship with the earth. The ability to live off the land without depleting its resources is more relevant than ever. Modern agricultural practices have strained the earth's capacity to provide for us, leading to deforestation, soil depletion, and unsustainable food systems. But by adopting the sustainable farming practices of Native Americans, such as crop rotation, companion planting, and agroforestry, we can begin to rebuild the soil, restore biodiversity, and create food systems that support both people and the planet. These techniques have been used for thousands of years, and they offer a sustainable model for feeding the world while maintaining ecological balance. Another key lesson from Native American survival is the value of food sovereignty. The practice of growing, harvesting, and preserving food in ways that are tied to the land and community is crucial for ensuring food security in the future. As global food systems become increasingly industrialized and centralized, food sovereignty, allowing communities to control their food systems and ensure they have access to healthy, culturally appropriate foods, is gaining importance. The tradition of Native Americans growing their own food, sharing it within their communities, and preserving it for the winter months offers a powerful example of how we can reclaim control over our food systems and reduce dependence on global supply chains. In terms of health, Native American communities also provide a model for holistic well-being. They understood that physical health wasn't just about eating well, it was about maintaining mental, emotional, and spiritual health as well. The importance of community rituals, ceremonies, and collective efforts cannot be overstated. In modern society, where mental health challenges are on the rise, the sense of belonging, purpose, and connection to a larger community is essential for individual well-being. By fostering stronger community ties, encouraging connection to nature, and supporting one another, we can begin to build the mental and emotional resilience that is needed to face the challenges of today. The lasting impact of Native American survival strategies extends beyond the practical realm of food preservation and land management. Their worldview, grounded in balance, sustainability, and respect for all life, offers a guiding light for how we can live more harmoniously with the earth and each other. In a world that is increasingly fragmented and disconnected, their teachings provide a path forward, one that calls for cooperation, community, and a renewed relationship with the land. As we look to the future, the lessons of Native American survival can guide us in creating a world that is more resilient, sustainable, and equitable. Whether we are addressing environmental issues, rebuilding communities, or strengthening our own mental and emotional resilience, the principles of respect, balance, and cooperation offer a timeless blueprint for living in harmony with the world around us. By reconnecting with the wisdom of Native American survival, we can build a future that honors both the earth and the people who call it home. As we reflect on the survival strategies of Native American communities, it becomes clear that the essence of their resilience was their ability to live with purpose and intentionality. They didn't just survive the winter, they thrived because they saw every challenge as an opportunity to deepen their connection with the earth, their culture, and their community. Their survival practices were grounded in an understanding that life is not just about individual success, but about collective strength, unity, and respect for the world that sustains us. The principles that guided Native American survival are deeply embedded in the fabric of their culture. These communities understood that their relationship with nature was symbiotic, that they were not masters of the land but its caretakers. They respected the land as a living being, and their survival strategies were rooted in this deep reverence. This worldview, which placed the health of the earth and the well-being of the community above all else, is one that we can and should strive to adopt in today's world. In modern times, as we confront an era of environmental crisis, social fragmentation, and economic inequality, the lessons of Native American survival are more relevant than ever. Their ability to survive the harsh winters wasn't just about their physical strength, it was about understanding the deep interconnections that bind all life together. It was about recognizing that the health of the community, the health of the land, and the health of each individual are all interconnected. One of the key aspects of Native American survival was their ability to adapt to changing circumstances. They didn't approach survival with a fixed mindset. Rather, they were constantly learning from the land and adjusting their practices as needed. In the face of the brutal winters, they understood that adaptation wasn't just about reacting to external conditions, it was about anticipating change, planning ahead, and remaining flexible. Whether it was adapting hunting methods to changing animal migration patterns or adjusting farming practices to suit the seasons, they knew that survival depended on their ability to learn, innovate, and collaborate. This adaptability is something that we can all learn from today, particularly in the face of the climate crisis. The world is changing rapidly, and the challenges we face, from extreme weather events to resource depletion, require us to be adaptable and forward-thinking. Just as Native Americans adapted their survival strategies to the rhythms of the land, we must find ways to adjust our lifestyles, economies, and communities to the changing world around us. Whether through adopting more sustainable agricultural practices, reducing our carbon footprint, or investing in green technologies, we can draw inspiration from the way Native Americans met the challenges of their environment with innovation and resilience. Native American communities also understood the value of self-reliance, not in the sense of isolation, but in the sense of being in harmony with the earth and one's resources. They didn't rely on outside systems to provide for them. Instead, they cultivated a deep relationship with the land, using what was available to them in the most efficient and respectful way possible. Their survival depended not on exploitation, but on stewardship, a mindset that saw the earth as a partner rather than a provider to be extracted from. This philosophy is at the heart of modern sustainability movements, which emphasize local resource use, renewable energy, and closed-loop systems. This deep understanding of sustainability extended to all aspects of life. The food they ate, the clothes they wore, the shelters they built, everything was made with careful consideration of the resources at hand. They were masters of resourcefulness, using every part of the animal and every element of the land to meet their needs. This was not only a practical approach to survival, but also a cultural value that emphasized efficiency, respect, and balance. In a world that often values convenience over sustainability, the Native American approach to using resources wisely and creatively offers a powerful alternative. From renewable energy to zero-waste lifestyles, modern movements are beginning to embrace the same principles of efficiency, respect, and stewardship that Native Americans practiced for thousands of years. The movement towards more sustainable lifestyles, whether through plant-based diets, recycling, or supporting local economies, mirrors the values that Native American cultures have long upheld. Moreover, Native American survival practices offer a profound lesson in patience and resilience. In a time when instant gratification is often prioritized, the idea of patiently preparing, waiting, and respecting the rhythms of nature is a practice that can help ground us in today's fast-paced world. The long months of winter, when food was carefully preserved, when communal bonds were strengthened, and when life slowed down to align with the cycles of the earth, offer us a model of how to live more intentionally. The Native American philosophy of survival also emphasized balance. They didn't approach the winter months with a mindset of scarcity or fear. They approached them with preparation, gratitude, and unity. Even in the face of uncertainty, they understood that balance was key, balance between taking and giving back, between living and respecting the land, between individual needs and communal health. This balance was central to their survival and is just as critical today. As we face our own challenges in the modern world, whether environmental, social, or economic, it's crucial that we keep these lessons in mind. The story of Native American survival during the harshest winters is not just a historical account. It is a living, breathing legacy that continues to guide us today. Their ability to adapt, collaborate, and live in harmony with the land offers a roadmap for how we can overcome the challenges of our time. By embracing these principles, we can create a future that honors the earth, respects our communities, and ensures resilience for generations to come. In closing, the survival strategies of Native American communities during winter provide more than just practical solutions. They offer a deeper understanding of how to live well in a world that is often unpredictable and challenging. These strategies, rooted in respect for the land, the community, and the cycles of nature, offer us a timeless blueprint for living sustainably and harmoniously. As we continue to face global challenges, may we draw strength from the resilience and wisdom of those who came before us, and build a future that is rooted in balance, cooperation, and respect for all life. As we approach the final stretch of this exploration, it becomes even clearer that the survival strategies of Native American communities during winter were not just about enduring physical hardship. They were about embracing a philosophy that extended far beyond the practical. These strategies offer a blueprint for how we can approach not only our survival but our relationships with the world around us, with the land, and with each other. One of the key elements of these survival strategies was the understanding that humans are a part of nature, not separate from it. This holistic view is central to Native American cultures and their relationship with the land. Their survival depended on respecting the cycles of nature, knowing when to plant, when to harvest, when to hunt, and when to rest. This sense of timing wasn't just based on observation, it was deeply ingrained in their spiritual and cultural practices. The changing seasons weren't just physical events, they were metaphysical ones, offering reminders to be in harmony with the world and its rhythms. This deeper connection to nature is a stark contrast to the way many of us live today. We often see ourselves as separate from the environment, using it for our benefit without giving much thought to the long-term consequences. The modern world, with its fast pace and technological advancements, has moved far away from the slower, more deliberate pace of life that Native Americans embraced. Yet, in today's context of environmental degradation, climate change, and resource depletion, returning to this sense of harmony with the land has never been more important. The values of respect, balance, and interconnectedness that Native American cultures lived by are the same values that are being embraced by modern movements focused on sustainability, environmental justice, and eco-conscious living. Whether it's the growing popularity of sustainable agriculture, the movement toward reducing waste, or the push for greater environmental protections, these values are resonating more than ever. In fact, as we look at the environmental challenges we face today, it's clear that we need to rethink the way we live. The conventional, consumption-driven model that has dominated modern life is simply no longer viable. As our natural resources become scarcer, and as ecosystems continue to deteriorate, the lessons of Native American survival practices, using what is available without over-exploiting it, working with the land rather than against it, and living in community, offer a much-needed corrective to our current trajectory. The rise in interest around indigenous knowledge systems is part of a broader movement to center traditional wisdom in contemporary decision-making. This is particularly true in areas related to environmental management and conservation. Indigenous practices of forest management, land regeneration, and agriculture are increasingly seen as vital solutions for mitigating the effects of climate change and restoring the health of the planet. Many indigenous communities, including Native Americans, are at the forefront of this work, advocating for the return of stewardship over lands that have been disrupted by colonization, industrialization, and exploitation. What is striking about these practices is not just their environmental effectiveness, but also their social and cultural significance. For Native Americans, sustainability wasn't just a matter of food production or conservation. It was about culture. It was about ensuring that future generations could enjoy the same connection to the land that their ancestors had. This deep, generational perspective is something that modern society could learn from. So much of our current way of life is focused on short-term gains, whether in terms of profit, consumption, or technological advancement. Yet, the survival practices of Native American cultures remind us that true sustainability requires thinking beyond our immediate needs and toward the long-term health of the earth, the community, and future generations. This multi-generational approach to survival and sustainability is an invaluable lesson for us today. In many ways, the challenges we face, climate change, resource scarcity, and social fragmentation demand that we think in terms of long-term solutions. It's not enough to solve problems in the present moment without considering the impact on future generations. Native American wisdom teaches us that survival isn't just about managing the present, it's about ensuring that future generations can thrive as well. It's about living in a way that nurtures the earth and sustains life for the long haul. Looking at the ways in which Native American cultures have adapted their practices for modern-day challenges is inspiring. Tribes across North America are reclaiming their cultural heritage, reviving traditional farming practices, restoring ecosystems, and revitalizing their communities. These efforts go beyond mere survival. They are about reclaiming sovereignty, revitalizing cultural identity, and creating a more equitable and sustainable future. The strength, resilience, and wisdom that Native American communities continue to demonstrate today are a testament to the enduring power of their cultural survival strategies. As we move forward into an uncertain future, we would do well to heed the lessons of Native American survival. Their ability to live in harmony with the land, their deep sense of community, and their unwavering respect for the natural world provide a model for how we can navigate the challenges of our time. By embracing the principles of sustainability, cooperation, and balance, we can create a future where both people and the planet thrive. In the final analysis, the story of Native American survival is not just about overcoming physical hardship, it's about living in harmony with the earth, understanding our place within the larger web of life, and creating a sustainable future for generations to come. As we look to the future, may we be guided by the wisdom of the past, drawing strength from the resilience, ingenuity, and harmony that have allowed Native American communities to survive and thrive for thousands of years. As we draw closer to the end of this exploration, it's important to remember that the story of Native American survival during winter is not just a story of overcoming physical hardship, it's a profound narrative about resilience, respect, and wisdom that still holds relevance for us today. It's a story that continues to offer insights not only for surviving the challenges of the present, but also for living with intention, sustainability, and balance in the face of an uncertain future. The true power of Native American survival strategies lies in their focus on holistic well-being, something that's often overlooked in modern survival practices. Today, we may focus on the material aspects of survival: food, shelter, clothing, but Native American communities understood that true survival extended beyond the physical. It was about maintaining mental, emotional, and spiritual health as well. The harsh winter months tested every aspect of their lives, but the sense of community, the spiritual rituals, and the respect for the land provided the emotional and psychological support necessary to endure. This focus on holistic well-being has become even more important today, as modern society faces an increasing range of stressors, economic inequality, environmental degradation, and mental health challenges, just to name a few. Native American communities have long understood that survival requires more than just surviving in a material sense. It requires the nurturing of the whole person. The emotional and spiritual aspects of survival were just as important as the practical skills needed to gather food or build shelter. This balance between the physical and spiritual, between individual needs and collective well-being, is a lesson we can all learn from. The importance of spiritual connection cannot be overstated. Native Americans didn't simply exist in a physical world, they lived in a world deeply intertwined with the spiritual. The land, the animals, and the plants were not just resources, they were sacred, each having its own spirit and purpose. This connection to the spiritual world was reinforced through rituals, prayers, and ceremonies, many of which were focused on giving thanks and ensuring a continued relationship with nature. These rituals provided not only spiritual strength but also a deep sense of gratitude, which helped individuals and communities endure difficult times. In modern society, where we often find ourselves disconnected from nature and each other, returning to this spiritual connection could help reframe the way we approach the challenges of our time. One of the most striking aspects of Native American survival strategies was the emphasis on preparedness, not just in terms of food or shelter, but in terms of the psyche. The knowledge that winter would be difficult was not met with fear, but with anticipation and preparation. This foresight allowed individuals and communities to approach adversity with a clear, steady mind, knowing they had what they needed to endure. This practice of mental and emotional preparation is one that can benefit us all, especially in times of uncertainty. In today's fast-paced, often chaotic world, preparing ourselves mentally and emotionally for the challenges ahead can provide us with the strength and clarity needed to face whatever comes our way. Another lesson that Native American survival practices offer is the importance of balance in all things. In a world driven by excess, where overconsumption and unsustainable practices are the norm, the Native American approach to balance, taking only what is needed, respecting the land, and using resources wisely offers a powerful counterpoint. In their survival strategies, nothing was wasted. Every part of the animal, every resource from the land, had a purpose. This practice of efficiency and reverence for resources is something that modern society desperately needs to revisit. As we face challenges like climate change, resource depletion, and environmental degradation, the need for balance and respect for the earth is more pressing than ever. By embracing these principles, we can begin to shift our mindset and approach to living in a way that respects the planet and ensures its sustainability for generations to come. The importance of community, too, is a central tenet of Native American survival strategies. While individual survival was important, it was the strength of the collective that ensured everyone had enough to endure the winter. This communal approach to survival speaks to the power of working together in times of need. In a world where individualism often takes precedence, the value of community and shared responsibility cannot be overlooked. By strengthening our communities and supporting one another, we can create the kind of resilient, interconnected societies that can weather any storm. Finally, as we look toward the future, we must remember that the survival practices of Native American communities weren't just about enduring the harsh winters of the past. They were about creating a future that would honor the land, the community, and the generations to come. This future-focused approach is something we can all learn from. As we face the complex challenges of the 21st century, it is crucial that we think not only about our immediate needs, but also about the long-term health of the planet and the well-being of future generations. The lessons of Native American survival offer a vision for how we can live in harmony with nature, care for our communities, and create a world where sustainability and balance are at the forefront. As we conclude this journey, it's important to recognize that the wisdom and resilience of Native American communities are not just relics of the past. They are living, breathing practices that continue to shape our world today. Whether through the revival of traditional ecological knowledge, the reclamation of food sovereignty, or the pursuit of environmental justice, Native American survival strategies are not only relevant today, they are essential for building a sustainable and resilient future. The story of survival is not just one of hardship, but of strength, wisdom, and unity. And as we face the challenges of our own time, may we draw inspiration from the resilience and teachings of Native American cultures, finding ways to live more harmoniously with the earth and each other. As we approach the final stretch of this journey into Native American survival strategies, it is essential to pause and reflect on the true scope of the wisdom we've uncovered. These survival techniques were not simply about getting by, they were about living with purpose, gratitude, and respect for the land, the people, and the spirits that guided them. From their resourcefulness in preparing for the winter months to their deep spiritual connection with the earth, The Native American approach to winter survival serves as a powerful reminder of how we might live in balance with nature and each other in a world that often feels fractured. The knowledge passed down through generations was not just practical, it was a way of understanding the world. Native Americans didn't separate the spiritual from the physical. They viewed all aspects of life as interconnected. This holistic view of survival, where mental, emotional, and physical well-being are inseparable from the environment, offers a profound lesson for our own time. As we grapple with modern stresses like climate change, mental health struggles, and social fragmentation, the Native American way of life invites us to reconnect with our inner and outer worlds in a way that promotes harmony. Today, as we look toward building a more sustainable and resilient future, there is a growing movement to revisit and incorporate indigenous knowledge systems into modern practices. From indigenous food sovereignty movements to community-led environmental efforts, Native American practices are being recognized for their value not only in survival, but in creating thriving, sustainable communities. These practices aren't relics of the past. They are vital solutions for the problems we face today, rooted in centuries of experience and deep respect for the planet. One of the most important lessons from Native American survival during the winter months is the necessity of foresight. Their careful preparation for the seasons, knowing when to hunt, when to plant, and when to rest, demonstrates the importance of long-term thinking. This mindset of anticipating needs and planning accordingly is something that can help guide us through the complexities of modern life. In the face of climate change and the uncertainties it brings, planning ahead and living in alignment with the natural rhythms of the earth is not just practical, it's essential for ensuring a sustainable future. Another key element of Native American survival was the importance of adaptation. The earth is in constant flux, and those who lived on it understood that survival wasn't just about holding on to old ways, it was about learning, adjusting, and innovating. In the face of changing environmental conditions, the Native American ability to adapt to new challenges allowed them to endure. This principle of adaptability is incredibly relevant today. As we face a world marked by rapid change, whether it's shifting weather patterns, technological advances, or social upheaval, the ability to remain flexible and open to new solutions is critical. The Native American approach to food, where nothing went to waste, and every part of a resource was used, is also something that modern society can learn from. In our consumer-driven world, where convenience often trumps sustainability, the practice of using resources responsibly and creatively is more important than ever. The rise of zero-waste living, for example, echoes the Native American tradition of utilizing every part of the land and its bounty. By shifting our perspective and adopting a more sustainable approach to how we consume and dispose of resources, we can contribute to building a healthier planet. Native Americans also knew that survival wasn't only about material resources, it was about community. The importance of maintaining social bonds, offering support, and ensuring that no one was left behind was central to their survival strategy. In the coldest months, when resources were scarce and isolation was common, it was the strength of the community that ensured individual survival. Today, in a world where loneliness and isolation are growing concerns, fostering strong communities is more important than ever. Whether through mutual aid, cooperative living, or simply supporting those around us, the strength of community remains one of the most powerful tools we have in facing adversity. As we continue to face global challenges from the climate crisis to social inequities, the lessons of Native American survival strategies offer us both inspiration and guidance. Their ability to live sustainably, work together, and honor the earth provides a timeless framework for how we can approach the crises of our own time. These practices are not merely historical, they are practical, applicable, and essential to building a more resilient future. Looking back at the remarkable survival strategies developed by Native American communities, we realize that their strength didn't come from technology, wealth, or dominance over nature. It came from a deep respect for the land, a commitment to community, and a profound understanding of how to live in balance with the natural world. These principles, grounded in thousands of years of experience, offer invaluable lessons for how we can live more sustainably, cooperatively, and consciously in the world today. In conclusion, the survival strategies of Native American communities during winter provide more than just practical solutions. They offer a deeper understanding of how to live well in a world that is often unpredictable and challenging. These strategies, rooted in respect for the land, the community, and the cycles of nature, offer us a timeless blueprint for living sustainably and harmoniously. As we continue to face global challenges, may we draw strength from the resilience and wisdom of those who have come before us, and build a future that is rooted in balance, cooperation, and respect for all life. In the far north, where winter's grip is even harsher, Native American tribes had to adapt their survival strategies to the extreme cold. The Arctic regions home to tribes like the Inuit presented challenges that required specialized knowledge and techniques. The long, dark winters and freezing temperatures forced these communities to develop a unique way of life centered around the resources available in the harshest of climates. One of the most remarkable aspects of Arctic survival was the ability to use every part of the land and animals that lived in it. The Inuit, for example, were known for their ingenious use of animal skins and furs for warmth. They would make clothing such as parkas, mittens, and boots out of sealskin, caribou, and other animals native to the region. These materials were incredibly effective at insulating against the cold, and the Inuits' knowledge of how to prepare and sew these materials ensured that they were well equipped for survival. Hunting in the Arctic was a delicate balance between skill, patience, and understanding of the land. Seals, walruses, and caribou were essential food sources. The Inuit would hunt seals through holes cut into the thick ice, using spears and harpoons. They had an intimate knowledge of the sea ice, its behavior, and the migration patterns of animals, allowing them to predict where and when to hunt. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was vital for survival in one of the coldest environments on Earth. Fishing was also a crucial part of Arctic survival. The icy waters didn't stop the Inuit from fishing. Instead, they adapted their methods to the conditions. Ice fishing became a key technique, where they would drill holes in the ice and fish through them, often catching species like trout, salmon, and cod. The success of these fishing methods depended on precise timing and understanding of the underwater environment, showing the deep relationship these communities had with their surroundings. In terms of food, fat was the most crucial resource. Fatty meats from seals, walruses, and whales provided essential calories to help the body stay warm in freezing temperatures. The Inuit were also skilled at preserving these foods for the long winters. Blubber from marine mammals was rendered into oil and stored for consumption. This oil not only provided sustenance, but was used for cooking, lighting lamps, and even warming the homes by burning in oil lamps. The importance of warmth in the Arctic couldn't be overstated. The Inuits' homes, called igloos, were marvels of engineering. Made from compacted snow blocks, igloos were insulated to trap heat, providing a warm refuge from the harsh winds and freezing temperatures outside. These homes, though simple, were incredibly effective at creating warmth in one of the coldest places on Earth. The structure of the igloo allowed it to retain heat, even in sub-zero temperatures, and provided a safe environment for families to live and sleep through the long winters. Socially, the Arctic tribes were tightly knit, and survival was often a community effort. In the extreme cold, no one could afford to be alone for long. Hunting parties would work together to track and hunt animals, while others would ensure the fire stayed burning, food was prepared, and clothing was repaired. The communal effort was critical for ensuring that everyone survived, and this unity was integral to their way of life. While survival in the Arctic was difficult, the Inuit and other Arctic tribes demonstrated incredible resourcefulness, resilience, and adaptability. They didn't just survive, they thrived by deeply understanding and respecting the land and its resources. Their ability to turn the harshest of environments into a sustainable home is a testament to their strength and ingenuity. As we reflect on the Arctic tribes' survival strategies, we can draw inspiration from their resilience and their profound connection with the environment. Just as they adapted to the harsh winters and used what nature provided, we too must find ways to adapt our own ways of life to the challenges of the modern world. Whether it's through sustainable living, community support, or respecting the resources of the planet, the lessons of Arctic survival remain as relevant as ever. As we look back at the incredible survival strategies employed by Native American communities during winter, it's clear that their relationship with food, the land, and the seasons is a legacy that continues to resonate today. The way they lived carefully preparing, preserving, and respecting the natural world provides us with a timeless blueprint for living more sustainably, both in our individual lives and as a society. The most significant aspect of Native American food practices was their ability to sustain themselves through the harsh winter months. Their deep understanding of seasonal cycles allowed them to gather, store, and preserve food long before the first snow fell. They were able to transform raw materials into nutritious, long-lasting food that could endure the cold months when fresh resources were scarce. This knowledge didn't just emerge overnight, it was the result of centuries of experience, trial, and error passed down through generations. One of the most lasting elements of Native American winter food practices is their approach to food preservation. Techniques such as drying, smoking, and fermenting were crucial to survival, and they continue to influence modern food preservation practices. For example, smoking meat was not just a way to enhance flavor. It was an essential method for extending the shelf life of food. Fish, venison, and even berries were carefully prepared, ensuring that the community would have enough to eat when the land was dormant. The practice of drying and fermenting food is also seeing a revival today. As modern food systems become more industrialized, many people are looking back to traditional methods of food preservation, both for sustainability and health reasons. Fermented foods, such as sauerkraut, kimchi, and pickled vegetables, are gaining popularity for their health benefits, including probiotics that support digestion and overall wellness. Similarly, drying fruits and vegetables is being embraced as a way to reduce food waste while providing a nutrient-dense alternative to processed snacks. The reliance on natural, local resources also meant that Native Americans developed a diverse diet that varied from region to region. While some tribes depended heavily on large game animals like buffalo and moose, others turned to fishing, trapping smaller game, or gathering wild plants. This diversity in diet was not only a survival mechanism, but also a reflection of the deep knowledge these communities had of their surroundings. They knew how to adapt to different environments, drawing on whatever was available in each region to ensure that their food systems were sustainable. Furthermore, the use of plants as both food and medicine was integral to Native American survival strategies. Plants like ginseng, echinacea, and sage played a dual role in maintaining both physical health and spiritual well-being. In winter, when illness could spread more easily due to close living conditions and a weakened immune system from cold and scarcity, these plants were indispensable. Teas, tinctures, and poultices made from these plants were not just remedies, they were preventative measures, helping people stay healthy and strong through the coldest months. The role of women in food preparation and management was also critical in ensuring the survival of the community. Women were the primary gatherers and preparers of food. They were responsible for drying, storing, and preserving the food that would sustain their families during the long winter. Their skills were passed down through generations, and their knowledge of which plants were best to harvest at which times, how to prepare and preserve them, and how to prepare traditional dishes was essential. In many ways, women were the backbone of winter survival, ensuring that there was always food to eat and that the nutritional needs of the community were met. Today, we see the influence of Native American food practices in the growing interest in local, seasonal, and sustainably grown foods. The farm-to-table movement, which emphasizes eating locally grown, seasonal produce, echoes the way Native Americans relied on the land's natural cycles. By focusing on what is available during each season and using preservation methods to ensure food is available when it is needed, we are beginning to rediscover the value of living in closer harmony with nature and the land. The sustainable practices that Native Americans relied on were rooted in an understanding of the Earth's capacity and limits. Unlike modern industrial food systems that often rely on monoculture farming, chemical pesticides, and long supply chains, Native American food systems were based on the principles of biodiversity and balance. They knew that the land could only provide if it was respected and cared for. Overharvesting or depleting resources could lead to food scarcity and environmental degradation. This understanding of the need for balance and stewardship is one that is more important than ever today as we face the environmental challenges of the 21st century. In many ways, the way Native Americans lived adapting to seasonal cycles, respecting the land, and working together provides us with a model for how we might address the food and environmental crises of today. By shifting our focus to more sustainable practices in farming, food preservation, and resource management, we can build a future that is more resilient, more connected to the land, and more equitable. The legacy of Native American winter food practices is not just a historical one, it is alive today, influencing modern food systems and sustainability movements around the world. The wisdom they shared about how to live in balance with the land, how to preserve food, and how to respect nature is still relevant and vital in our modern world. As we continue to face the challenges of climate change, food security, and resource depletion, these practices offer us a way forward, one that is rooted in respect, cooperation, and sustainability. The arrival of Europeans in the Americas drastically altered the food systems of Native American communities, especially during the winter months. European contact introduced new foods, tools, and technologies that reshaped indigenous diets, agricultural practices, and survival strategies. While some of these changes were beneficial, others disrupted long-standing practices that had been developed over millennia, forcing Native Americans to adapt once again to a rapidly changing world. When European settlers first arrived, they brought with them new foods that had never been seen in the Americas before, such as wheat, rice, sugar, dairy products, and livestock like pigs, cows, and chickens. These foods were quickly integrated into Native American diets, but their impact was not always positive. The introduction of wheat and sugar, for example, led to a shift in dietary patterns. While corn and other native grains had been the staple foods for many tribes, wheat became an important crop for some, though it required different farming techniques. Sugar, though once a rarity, began to replace the natural sweeteners like berries, maple syrup, and honey that had been traditionally used. The introduction of livestock also had profound effects on the diet. Pigs, cattle, and chickens provided a new source of protein for many Native American communities, but raising these animals required different methods of animal husbandry. It also led to a shift in how animals were used not just for food, but also for labor, leather, and other materials. The European settlers' practices of intensive farming, coupled with the introduction of large-scale animal husbandry, sometimes led to the depletion of local ecosystems and resources that Native Americans relied on for food and shelter. In many regions, the introduction of European foods and agricultural practices began to replace or diminish the importance of traditional Native American foods. For instance, maize, corn, and beans were staples in the diets of many tribes, but after European contact, they were often supplemented or even replaced by European crops like wheat and potatoes. This shift in diet had significant effects on health, as the diversity of foods that Native Americans had relied upon for centuries began to decline, and the nutritional balance of their diets was disrupted. In addition to foods, Europeans brought with them new tools and technologies that changed food preparation methods. For example, metal cooking implements replaced traditional stone tools for preparing food, which allowed for faster cooking, but also introduced new ways of processing and consuming food. The European style of cooking, which often involved boiling and frying, contrasted with the more primitive methods that Native Americans had used, such as roasting over open fires or steaming in earth ovens. While these changes made food preparation easier in some ways, they also led to the loss of some traditional cooking techniques that were integral to maintaining the distinct flavors and nutrients of Native American foods. The introduction of alcohol by Europeans had another significant impact. Alcoholic beverages, particularly rum and later whiskey, were often traded with Native Americans in exchange for food, furs, and other goods. The introduction of alcohol had both social and health consequences for indigenous communities. In some cases, alcohol consumption became a form of socialization and exchange, but it also led to increased dependence on alcohol, disrupting traditional cultural practices and contributing to the social challenges faced by many Native American communities during and after European colonization. While the changes brought about by European contact were often disruptive, Native American communities also adapted by incorporating new foods and practices into their survival strategies. For example, corn, beans, and squash, known as the Three Sisters, were often cultivated alongside European crops, creating a more diverse and sustainable agricultural system. The introduction of European livestock, such as cows and horses, allowed many tribes to become more mobile, improving their hunting practices and transportation methods. Despite the challenges and disruptions caused by European contact, Native American communities found ways to integrate new foods and practices into their way of life, creating a hybrid food system that reflected both their traditional knowledge and the new world they now inhabited. In some cases, European foods and tools allowed Native American communities to better withstand the harsh winters. For example, the introduction of metal knives and axes made hunting and food preparation more efficient. Similarly, the use of European farming tools like plows helped increase crop yields, providing more food during the colder months. However, these changes also had a downside. As Europeans expanded their settlements and claimed more land, they often displaced Native American communities from their traditional territories, disrupting their access to natural resources and hunting grounds. The loss of land and traditional food sources severely impacted Native American survival strategies, particularly during the long winters when access to food was most critical. Ultimately, the impact of European contact on Native American winter diets was complex. While it introduced new food sources, tools, and farming practices that helped some tribes survive, it also led to a loss of cultural practices and a shift in the natural balance that had sustained these communities for centuries. The integration of European foods and technologies into Native American diets was a double-edged sword, helping some while disrupting others. As we continue to explore how Native Americans adapted to the challenges of winter survival, it's important to consider how the introduction of European foods and practices reshaped their survival strategies. The long-term effects of these changes are still felt today, as many Native American communities continue to navigate the legacies of colonization and the loss of traditional food systems. Despite these challenges, the resilience and adaptability of Native American communities remain a testament to their strength and ingenuity. As we reflect on the survival strategies developed by Native American communities during the winter months, one of the most striking features is the sustainability of their methods. Native Americans were not only masters of surviving harsh winters, but they also cultivated ways of life that were deeply attuned to the cycles of nature. Their practices were grounded in an understanding of the Earth's limits, making sure that they could survive without depleting the resources around them. Traditional Native American methods of food preservation and hunting were based on a respect for the environment and an understanding of how to work with it, rather than exploiting it. For example, hunting was done with great care to ensure that animal populations remained sustainable. This was achieved through rituals and practices that honored the animal, ensuring that the hunt was not wasteful and that only what was needed was taken. These practices extended to the gathering of plants and seeds, where care was taken not to overharvest and deplete natural resources. The farming methods used by many tribes were also designed to be sustainable. The three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, were planted together in a symbiotic relationship. The corn provided a natural support structure for the beans to climb, while the beans fixed nitrogen in the soil, enriching it for the next crop. The squash served as ground cover, keeping weeds at bay and preventing soil erosion. This agricultural system was efficient, requiring minimal resources, and it preserved the soil's health over time. By planting in this way, Native Americans ensured that they could harvest food for generations without depleting the land. Moreover, traditional methods of food storage, such as drying and smoking, were essential for survival during the winter months. These methods were not only effective in preserving food, but also used natural resources such as wood and air to process food in ways that were environmentally friendly. Smoking meat, for example, helped preserve it for long periods without refrigeration, and drying fruits and vegetables ensured that they could be used throughout the winter when fresh food was scarce. These practices of food preservation were more than just about survival. They were part of a larger worldview in which sustainability and harmony with nature were central. Native Americans understood that their survival was intertwined with the health of the earth, and this understanding was reflected in their methods of food production and preservation. Their approach was not focused on short-term gain, but on long-term sustainability, ensuring that the land would continue to provide for future generations. In modern times, the relevance of these sustainable practices is more evident than ever. As industrial agriculture continues to have a negative impact on the environment, many people are turning to traditional and permaculture methods of farming that mirror the techniques used by Native Americans. Practices like crop rotation, organic farming, and the use of native plants are gaining popularity as people look for more sustainable ways to produce food without harming the planet. Native American survival methods also offer valuable insights into how we can live more sustainably in our daily lives. The importance of conserving resources, reducing waste, and making the most of what we have is a lesson that can be applied to many aspects of modern living. Whether it's in our food systems, waste management, or energy use, adopting a mindset of sustainability, one that respects the earth and its cycles, can help ensure that future generations have the resources they need to thrive. Another area where Native American practices hold value today is in their deep respect for the natural environment. In many native cultures, the land is seen not just as a resource to be exploited, but as a sacred entity that must be cared for and preserved. This reverence for the earth and its resources can provide guidance in our efforts to combat environmental degradation and climate change. By adopting a more holistic and respectful relationship with the earth, we can begin to heal the damage done by centuries of exploitation. Native American communities also understood the interconnectedness of all living things. Their survival strategies were not just about sustaining themselves, but about maintaining a balance with the natural world. This understanding of interdependence is crucial today, as we face global challenges that require collective action. Whether it's the impact of climate change, loss of biodiversity, or pollution, the principle of interconnectedness reminds us that the health of the earth is directly tied to the health of all living things. It encourages us to think beyond individual actions and consider the broader impact of our choices on the planet and its ecosystems. As we move forward in an age marked by environmental crises and a rapidly changing climate, the lessons of Native American sustainability practices offer us a path toward a more resilient and harmonious future. By adopting practices that honor the earth, promote balance, and ensure that we take only what we need, we can begin to reverse the damage done by modern, unsustainable practices. The wisdom of these indigenous cultures, grounded in respect for the earth and its cycles, provides us with the tools and knowledge we need to face the challenges of the present and future. In conclusion, the traditional methods of Native American survival were not only about surviving winter, but about creating a sustainable way of life that respected the Earth's resources. These practices, which allowed them to thrive in some of the harshest environments on Earth, are as relevant today as they were centuries ago. By embracing sustainability, balance, and respect for the earth, we can begin to rebuild our relationship with the environment and ensure that future generations can live in harmony with the planet. Even in the midst of scarcity and cold, the winter months held an important place for Native American communities in terms of both survival and cultural practices. The long, harsh winters were a time for families to come together, reflect on their shared hardships, and celebrate the bonds that held their communities together. Despite the challenges of limited food and resources, winter feasts and celebrations were an essential part of maintaining both physical and emotional well-being. Winter was often the season when the most important social and spiritual rituals took place. Many tribes believed that the darkness of winter had a spiritual significance, symbolizing a time of renewal, reflection, and connection to the spirits. Feasts were not just about eating. They were deeply symbolic events that reinforced cultural values, shared traditions, and the importance of community solidarity. These gatherings offered a chance to celebrate survival, express gratitude for the food that had been preserved, and come together to share warmth and hope for the coming months. One of the most significant aspects of winter feasts was the role they played in reinforcing social ties. With many communities living in close-knit family groups or villages, these celebrations were an opportunity to share food, stories, and company. In the difficult winter months, when the cold and isolation could weigh heavily, coming together to share meals and exchange gifts was a vital way to strengthen communal bonds. It was during these gatherings that relationships were nurtured, alliances were formed, and collective strength was reaffirmed. The foods prepared for winter feasts were often carefully chosen for both their nutritional value and symbolic significance. Meals typically included hearty stews, soups, and roasted meats that had been carefully preserved during the colder months. These foods provided much-needed calories and warmth, but also served as a reminder of the resilience of the community. For example, many tribes would prepare elaborate dishes using preserved meat, fish, corn, beans, and squash, the staple ingredients that had sustained them throughout the winter. These foods, often cooked over open fires, were shared by everyone in the community, reinforcing the idea of collective effort and mutual support. In addition to the traditional foods, winter feasts were often accompanied by dances, songs, and storytelling. These cultural activities were integral to the social fabric of Native American communities and provided both entertainment and a way to pass down oral traditions. Storytelling, in particular, played a crucial role in maintaining cultural heritage. Elders would recount tales of past generations, often teaching younger members of the community important lessons about survival, resilience, and the values of the tribe. These stories were more than just entertainment. They were a way to keep the history, knowledge, and identity of the tribe alive for future generations. In many tribes, winter feasts also had a spiritual dimension. The foods prepared for the feast were often offered to the spirits or ancestors in gratitude for their protection and provision. Rituals and prayers were a way to honor the earth and the animals that had provided sustenance. These ceremonies reinforced the connection between the people and the natural world, highlighting the cyclical nature of life. The harvest, the hunt, the food, and the celebrations all reflected the deep interconnection between the community and the land, a connection that was rooted in respect and reciprocity. For the Native American tribes living in colder climates, winter feasts were an essential part of the survival process. They provided not only the physical nourishment needed to get through the winter, but also the emotional and social sustenance required to maintain a sense of hope and unity. These celebrations offered a break from the hardships of winter and reminded the people of their resilience, their shared history, and the strength of their community. Even in the bleakest of times, the act of coming together to feast, dance, and celebrate created a sense of warmth that could combat the coldest of nights. The importance of winter feasts and celebrations goes beyond just the act of eating and socializing. It is about preserving the spirit of community, keeping traditions alive, and passing down cultural knowledge from one generation to the next. These celebrations allowed Native American communities to reconnect with their ancestors, with the land, and with each other. They provided a sense of continuity, reminding everyone that, no matter how difficult the winter may be, there was always the promise of spring, renewal, and the continued strength of the tribe. Today, many Native American communities still hold feasts and celebrations as a way of honoring their ancestors and preserving their cultural heritage. These gatherings continue to play an essential role in fostering community spirit, cultural continuity, and resilience. While the foods and practices may have evolved, the underlying principles of community, gratitude, and reverence for nature remain as relevant as ever. By looking to these traditions, we can find inspiration for how to face our own challenges, come together as a community, and create celebrations that honor both our history and our future. As we reach the end of this exploration into the survival strategies of Native American communities during the winter months, it's important to take a moment to reflect on the profound resilience, ingenuity, and wisdom that enabled these communities to thrive in some of the harshest environments on Earth. The lessons learned from their ability to adapt to and live in harmony with the land remain as relevant today as they were centuries ago. Native American survival wasn't just about enduring the winter, it was about thriving through deep knowledge of the environment, respect for natural cycles, and the strength of community. The survival practices developed by these communities were deeply interwoven with their cultural values, creating a holistic approach to life that encompassed everything from food and shelter to spirituality and social structure. These strategies weren't born out of necessity alone, they were shaped by generations of lived experiences, trial and error, and a profound relationship with the land. One of the most enduring lessons from Native American winter survival is the importance of sustainability. The careful preservation of food, the responsible hunting and gathering of resources, and the holistic approach to managing the environment were all key components of their survival strategies. These practices allowed Native Americans to not only survive the harsh winters, but to do so in a way that ensured the land would continue to provide for future generations. In modern times, as we face the environmental challenges of climate change, resource depletion, and ecosystem collapse, these lessons are more important than ever. Sustainability, however, wasn't limited to the physical aspect of survival. It was also about the spiritual, emotional, and social well-being of the community. The importance of sharing, cooperation, and mutual support was essential for survival during the long winter months. The communal feasts, shared responsibilities, and collective rituals all reinforced the social fabric that allowed Native American communities to endure. In times of scarcity, it was the strength of community that ensured no one went without. The spiritual practices, the connection to ancestors, and the belief that they were part of a larger, interconnected world helped these communities endure the harshest conditions with resilience and hope. Another key lesson is the adaptability that Native Americans demonstrated in the face of changing environmental conditions. Whether adjusting to new hunting techniques, learning to work with the land in different ways, or finding new ways to preserve food, these communities showed an incredible capacity to innovate and adapt. They understood that survival wasn't just about holding on to the past, but about learning, evolving, and finding new solutions to meet the challenges they faced. This adaptability continues to be a valuable lesson for us today, as we navigate an increasingly unpredictable world marked by rapid environmental, technological, and social changes. Finally, we must acknowledge the deep spiritual connection that Native Americans had with the land and the seasons. Their survival was not just about physical sustenance, it was about respecting and honoring the earth, acknowledging the spirits that guided them, and living in harmony with the world around them. This perspective reminds us that survival is not simply about enduring hardships, but about living in balance with the natural world. As we face the ecological crises of the modern age, we must remember that our survival is intimately tied to the health of the planet and the ecosystems that sustain us. The teachings of Native American cultures offer a profound reminder that we must approach our relationship with the earth with reverence, respect, and care. As we move forward into the future, the survival strategies of Native Americans offer valuable lessons for addressing the challenges of our time. Whether in terms of food security, environmental sustainability, community building, or spiritual well-being, the principles that guided these communities through the harshest winters are as applicable today as they were centuries ago. By adopting these practices and perspectives, we can work toward a more sustainable, harmonious future, one that honors both the lessons of the past and the needs of future generations. In conclusion, the story of Native American survival through the winter months is not just a tale of enduring hardship, it is a story of resilience, respect, and connection to the earth and each other. It is a testament to the ingenuity, adaptability, and strength of the human spirit. As we face our own challenges in the modern world, we can look to these lessons for inspiration and guidance. The wisdom of Native American survival provides us with a model for how to live more sustainably, adapt to change, and build stronger communities, ensuring that the legacy of survival continues for generations to come. Sweet dreams.